All right, we're live. Don't yell at me. How is everybody doing? Good to see all of you here. Hope you guys all had a great day and a great week. I kind of had a good day and a great week. It's been a slow week for me, really, just in terms of productivity and stuff like that, because of the fact that I'm coming off of this stomach bug that I had like a week and a half ago, and I'm still like catching my wind in many ways. So I'm getting back up there, but good to see all of you here. We're going to get into a lot of fun stuff tonight. We're going to talk about the Lindsay Clancy trial. I think it's at trial now at this point. I haven't been following the case closely. The only reason I'm even bringing it up tonight, as you guys know, I don't really get into true crime or anything like that, but I feel compelled to bring it up tonight because of the fact that women nationwide are standing in solidarity with a murderer. If you're unfamiliar, Lindsay Clancy had choked her 3 children to death in 2023. So this case is quite old. However, it's reaching its final stages. And in response to this, women all over the country and globally, it's seeming increasingly at this point, have been supporting her and excusing her actions as something that is a result of psychosis postpartum, or postpartum psychosis is what they would call it. And so, however much validity there is to that claim is really neither here or there. The most important thing is that people are saying that she's completely guilt-free and that the doctors who medicated her should be in prison instead. And it's pretty concerning because it shows us that, like always, these women are allergic to accountability and lack any sort of integrity to be able to stand up and say, that was wrong. And I know it's not all of them, but it is concerning. Outside today, the Plymouth Superior Court, there were hundreds, I don't know if it was in the thousands, but it seemed like hundreds of women wearing pink, showing solidarity with Lindsay Clancy, excusing her actions. And it's been a trend on TikTok as well. All of these girls are not only excusing her actions, but they're relating to the fact that they also suffer from some sort of psychosis postpartum in where they potentially have violent thoughts against their kids. So we live in a world now where not only are women supporting female murderers who kill their children, right? Not anybody else, their children, but they also have children. And so now we have to reconcile whether we are walking amongst and sharing the planet with a bunch of murderers and deranged lunatics who will kill their own children as well in light of all of this. So, yeah, it's crazy. And I have a video here pulled up. We're going to talk about that. I just can't believe it. And I wasn't going to talk about it, but it's going viral. And my brother and I, if you were watching yesterday, we did cut to OSS. So that is the portion of the stream that's behind the paywall. I know a lot of you may have not been able to see that, so I'm going to get into some of that as well tonight. But if you missed it, we were talking about it, and there are videos on TikTok just going viral of women reacting to this. So we had a moment to talk about this yesterday as well. We also went over the United Arab Emirates supporting the United States, in my opinion, per the command of Scott Bessent, telling the UAE to cut all of its trade and put an embargo on Iran. Iran and the UAE trade lots of goods amongst one another. I think the UAE imports technology devices like phones and others of the sort into Iran, and then Iran in return gives them agricultural goods and foods like spices and others. And so that's all allegedly coming to a halt. And this trading relationship was economic. We know that Iran and the UAE were enemies politically, but economically they were somewhat of allies. And that's really the case for the entire Gulf, or at least a lot of countries in the Gulf. And so now Trump has imposed this economic D-Day against Iran. And this is really the last thwarted effort to try and put a fork in the road of Iran's plans to control the Strait of Hormuz. And it's just not going to work. And my brother and I spoke about this yesterday and spoke about how it's absolute cope. It's not going to go anywhere. And Iran has dealt with sanctions for the better part of the last 25, 30 years. This isn't going to make any difference or anything that's meaningful for the future with respect to the United States having some viable off-ramp from this conflict. So we'll also talk about that, but it's just pretty unfortunate, the level of cope that we've reached in order to show that we have some control. And maybe this is the last-ditch effort so that Trump can exit the war. That's on the bright side. Maybe Trump wants to exit the war, but he has no way to save face because we've gotten, and I caught some flack for this yesterday. I guess people don't like to hear this. Iran beat the shit out of us. I mean, in every respective way that you can imagine, Iran beat the shit out of us. Iran forced us to concede on several different matters. We gave them $300 billion. We released their frozen assets. We unrevoked their oil licenses to sell. So we lifted sanctions for their energy as well. We also promised them some sort of restitution and or reparations. And now it seems like the United States is moving in the direction to move all of its military bases located in the Persian Gulf right off of the coast of Iran, or across the Persian Gulf near the coast of Iran, westwards and inwards to the Middle East, to get these military bases out of Iran's periphery, which was at one point a part of the Memorandum of Understanding. So there's like literally nothing that we got out of the war at all. And so now we're trying to impose economic sanctions and choke Iran economically, but we've already been blocking their blockade so they can't import and export any goods as well. And that's really not working because Iran is a country that has dealt with sanctions for, again, the better part of 2 decades. They know how to deal with economic relief. And the motivation inside of Iran to deal with economic hardship is a lot higher than it is in the United States because Iran faces an existential threat. If your leader dies on day 1 of a war, remember on February 28th, the United States and Israel locked hands and bombed the hell out of Iran. By the way, throughout that month, 15,000 plus times. And on the first day, not the third day, on the first day, we killed the supreme leader of Iran. So imagine if you are somebody in Iran and you're like on the fence about the IRGC. You're not sure if you want to support the IRGC. You think they're a brutal theocratic regime, too autocratic, whatever it is. And then your supreme leader dies on day 1. And then a U.S. Tomahawk missile bombs a school and kills 160 schoolgirls. What side of the fence are you going to jump on after that? Probably Iranian side. Probably the IRGC side, reluctantly enough, because you're facing what is called an existential threat. You're facing a threat, and really you winning, this is what matters for your existence. Your existence is contingent upon Iran withstanding the U.S. and Israeli aggression. So the motivation in the country to deal with economic hardship is far higher than it would be in the United States. Why does nobody want to deal with economic hardship in the United States? Because the United States is, first of all, a first world country, the best country in the world, the most powerful country in the world. So we're spoiled here. But most importantly, Iran never imposed a threat on us. Tulsi Gabbard last year in March had said clearly, which was the director of national intelligence, and the entire intelligence community as a whole, alongside her, had explicitly stated on several different occasions that Iran is not a necessary threat or necessarily a threat to the United States in any way. Yeah, are they hedging a nuclear program or some sort of primitive bomb? Sure they are. Everybody knows that. But Iran was never planning on making a nuclear weapon, and that was per a fatwa or a religious ruling from their supreme leader in, I believe, 2004 or 2003. So, the United States attacked on false pretense anyways, which was the fact that Iran was this emerging nuclear power. And where are we now? Where are we now? Even though they weren't going to make a nuke necessarily because we haven't provoked them enough. Where are we now? Think about this. Now we have to pull out of the war militarily. Why? Because our munitions in the region, our ammo in the region is running low, and we can't defend our Gulf allies. 3 U.S. servicemen died a month ago from an Iranian missile strike at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. And so you have that. The U.S. can't even defend itself or its allies as a result, Israel included. And then you also have the fact, with us not being able to defend ourselves, that Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz. Iran controls 1/5 of the world's energy supply. So now they're just that much more powerful because last time I checked, what did Iran lose? Anything that we destroyed, they likely rebuilt. As the analysts and the intelligence have been saying, Iran is probably rebuilding everything that we've destroyed on the coastline in inland Iran. Whether it's their drone stockpiles or Pickaxe Mountain or these mobile launchers across the coastline that launch missiles and drones that we can't find, by the way, because Iran is fortified by mountains and is geographically large. And it's also populated as well. It's a country of 92 million people. So Iran stands the same militarily. Economically, they'll be able to recover quickly because they control a bunch of the world's energy now. Strategically, they exist the same way. A lot of their leadership is killed, but it's been replaced because they have mosaic defense, which is essentially the kind of defense that is set up for regime change attempts. So they always succeed people after a military official is killed or a high-ranking government official is killed. And their delegation, Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, and Mohammad Ghalibaf, the parliament speaker, and the rest of them, Ismail Bagay, and the rest are all still alive and all still making statements on X, on social media. And so, like Robert Pape says, now Iran may, after all of this, emerge as a fourth power, as the fourth most powerful or influential country in the United States. Iran was a middle power prior to this, but who's to say Iran is not going to actually chase a nuclear weapon at this point? All bets are off. Why would they not create a bomb now? Because the only way Iran, technically, if you think about it, the only way Iran can perfectly and without a shadow of a doubt guarantee they will never be attacked by the United States again is, unfortunately, to probably make a nuclear bomb, because that is the only deterrent that would exist that would probably keep this psycho administration from attacking them again. Because them hedging wasn't enough, their missile stockpile wasn't enough, their drone stockpile wasn't enough, them not wanting to fight us wasn't enough, we still attacked them. And so it's obviously all at the behest of Israel. It's all because Israel dragged us into it. Because Israel has everything to gain from Iran being destabilized, as Iran is responsible for the proxy network across the entire Middle East that keeps Israel in check, like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like the Houthis, like the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq. And so Israel is scrambling to try and gain some sort of leverage over Iran, and that's why they're taking over the Golan Heights, because of the new leadership in Syria. They have the chance to do it now, since it's not controlled by Bashar al-Assad and this Iranian buffer zone anymore. And they're probably going to take southern Syria as well. They're going to try and take southern Lebanon. And as I've told you guys millions of times, but it's important, I reiterate this and I always repeat this so you guys always understand exactly what the biggest issue is in your mind. This is all for Israeli expansion. This is also Israel can have no threat upon its borders, or really I should reframe that and say a checks and balances system that ensures they cannot take over the Middle East. So the United States is serving the exact purpose of removing this system. The United States is serving Israel in removing this system, which also destroys U.S. influence. In what ways does it destroy U.S. influence? First of all, we have to move our bases now. Iran just whooped our ass and said, hey, by the way, before you leave, move your military bases too. So that's probably going to happen from what I've been reading in the news. And then on top of that, you also have the fact that all of these Gulf allies are never going to be able to challenge Iran again. And the United States, if we actually achieved, and think about it on the contrast, if the United States achieved their goal in removing the Iranian regime, Israel would not need us at all anymore. Don't you see what Netanyahu and all of these other Zionists are saying now? They're saying we want to get to a point where we don't have to rely on the U.S. economically anymore, even militarily to some degree. And that's because their dream is to not have the Iranian regime in power, to not have to deal with the IRGC. That way they don't have to bother us anymore. And that's a scary Middle East, because the U.S. has, and I'm not saying strategically or brilliantly, but we have policed the region for decades. We've been involved in the Middle East, and we've been serving their interests for decades. There's no secret about it, whether it's Iraq, Syria, Libya, etc. We've definitely been serving their interests for decades. But at least we always had the ability to step in and kind of tip our finger on the scale and police the situation. Now, if Iran is eradicated, which was the goal of the Trump administration in the beginning, within 4 or 5 days, by the way, that was the alleged goal. Now that if we eradicate the Iranian regime, this is all theoretic, well, then in that case, Israel will no longer need us. And Israel is the sole owner of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. They're the only nuclear arsenal existing within the Middle East. Pakistan doesn't necessarily count because they wouldn't be in the Middle East technically. And so you've got Egypt, you've got Qatar, you've got Turkey, you've got these, and Egypt maybe doesn't count, but you've got these vague adversaries of Israel and several other countries that have not signed the Abraham Accords, which signifies diplomatic relations with Israel and trade relations with Israel, at least on paper. We know all these countries work with Israel under the table anyways. But imagine the Middle East where the United States is not involved and Iran is not there to check Israel. Would there be a coalition built against Israel, and would they be forced into a corner where they have to use their nuclear weapons and plummet the region into darkness? It's plausible. It's plausible. I don't mean to get too conspiratorial, but it's certainly plausible. So that's something that you got to think about at the same time as well. And now look what's happening. Israel is bombing military bases in Syria in fear that these military bases will be utilized by Turkey. Just yesterday, Abu al-Duhur air base in Syria, or the military base belonging to Syria in the Idlib province, which is northwest Syria, was bombed by Israel. This is 40 miles away from the Turkish border. Erdogan, in the beginning of July, met with Trump at the NATO summit, July 8th, I believe, because Trump is going to give him F-35 jets, which gives that military belonging to Turkey potentially an edge over the Israeli military, or at least at minimum cuts it even. And of course, that goes against the security interests of Israel and their far-right Likud party government. Okay? On top of that, Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia just signed a defense pact to obviously counter-signal Israel. You can read what you want in the media and the news, but the goal of that, the underlying establishing factor of that defense pact, the Mecca Defense Joint Agreement, I think it's called, like, could it have a more Islamic name, is there to offer some sort of security umbrella that is not contingent upon the United States, because Israel cannot be trusted. So think about how things are moving in the Middle East. This is a Middle East that will be void of U.S. influence, at least to any meaningful degree, in the next 10 or 15 years. And unfortunately, we just live in a multipolar world where that's the reality. But what does that mean for our actual adversaries, like a China, like a Russia, and most importantly, China? And you have these idiots saying, oh, this war is all for the greater good of undermining the energy market so the United States can take control with what we just sieged in Venezuela. So we're going to be the global oil hegemon. We're going to be the energy hegemon of the world. So why does no person who's against China, all of the China hawks who are concerned about how much of a grave threat China poses to the United States, why are they not in favor of this war? It's because this war doesn't actually undermine China. China has set everything up methodically to prepare for this war because they knew it was coming. They have strategic reserves deeper than the United States. They don't even run on oil primarily. They run on coal. They don't get a lot of their oil from Venezuela in the first place anyways. And all of the vessels that pass through the Strait of Hormuz, the ones that are actually tolled, the ones that are actually blocked, are likely to be the U.S. allied ones, because the point of blocking the Strait of Hormuz is not only to make it painful for the world, but specifically for the U.S. And so when a Chinese or an Iranian vessel passes through, is there going to be that same treatment or energy? Well, no. What have we read in the news? That Chinese vessels just pass through without any issues. So this war is to undermine China. That doesn't make any sense. It falls flat on its face. And I see people like Tim Pool and other people who have large audiences saying this, and it's unbelievable cope. It leaves me with two conclusions. Either you are paid by Israel or you're paid by the Trump administration, which at this point, the two are synonymous. Really, it's the same entity. It's the same shit. So it's like just unbelievable. It's crazy. And so now Trump is imposing this economic D-Day on anybody who does trade with Iran, and it's just not going to work. The UAE, Iraq, Turkey, and Pakistan are likely the ones that are going to suffer from this the most, or the ones that need to be watched, because they're the ones that are notorious for extensive trade with Iran. So we'll see if they step back. The UAE has already been the first ones to say they're already going to put an embargo on Iran, and that's because the UAE is an Israeli proxy. The United Arab Emirates is, for all intents and purposes, an extension of Israel. They've signed the Abraham Accords. They were one of the first to do it in 2020. Them, Bahrain, Morocco, and one other country that I can't think of right now have signed the Abraham Accords, normalizing diplomatic relations with Israel. And everything they've done from a media perspective, military perspective, is in conjunction with Israel. That being the UAE. They have this shadow security umbrella or axis, and where they defend each other and step up for one another. And so I thought it was funny. I read in an article yesterday that the president of the UAE said that, and this is Mohammed bin Zayed, the Emirati leader, said that we are moving independently and we are making the decision to stop trade with Iran of our own accord because we are an independent nation. And it's like, no, you got the call from Scott Bessent. You got the call from Donald Trump. You were told to stop trading with Iran because we are getting the shit kicked out of us in this war. That's why you're doing it. And so it'll be interesting to see where the other countries go, what direction they decide to choose in this war. But it's just unbelievably frustrating. And I wish the war would just end. I wish Trump would just take his L. And why is this bothering me? I didn't mean to yap for so long. Why is this bothering me so much? Why is this bothering me so much? Look at what's happening in the United States right now. Look at what is happening in the U.S. right now. Democrats, especially these DSA candidates, Democratic Socialists of America, they are all catching momentum. The left is catching momentum because the right has become indefensible at this point. Supporting Israel, unseating Thomas Massie, sponsoring Randy Fine against Dan Bilzerian, Byron Donalds beating James Fishback, undermining the right too in this small faction coming out of the right, that's America First too. They've undermined them as well. And Thomas Massie, I guess, falls into that boat And then also just look at where the DSA is winning. They're overthrowing Trump candidates. They're causing upsets in certain congressional districts. For the Senate primary in Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed has now won. However, he says that he's a capitalist. I don't know how much I believe that. But what are they telling people? It's so easy to countersignal the Trump administration right now because of how bad the United States is suffering economically from this war and how poor of the decisions we've made in the Middle East is. All they have to say is, hey, you want free healthcare, you want money back in your pockets and money out of politics. We will not take money from AIPAC. We won't take money from AIPAC, American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. And then on top of that, we will also ensure you'll get your money back, you won't pay taxes, and you'll get free healthcare. I mean, wouldn't that be music to an American's ears? And so that's why they're winning. I think her name is Malat Quiros, just won in Colorado's Congressional 1st District. You have Daria Liza in New York's Congressional District as well, I think the 13th. Okay, and several others, unfortunately. So it's just the way the wind is blowing, and I've said this and I'll say it again. I am in great concern that 2029 we will have obviously you have 2028 for the campaign, but in 2029 there will be an inauguration of, at minimum, a center-left president or a far-left president, and it worries me. So, every single time we do something to antagonize Iran further, you can think of Trump kicking the can further down the road, but more importantly, Trump diminishing the odds of any sort of right-wing leader having influence in 2027 and 2028 to run for president of the United States. He is destroying their hopes. J.D. Vance is like the prime example. He went on Joe Rogan. J.D. Vance went on Joe Rogan, and he said, yeah, Israel is kind of undermining the peace deal that I'm trying to broker with Iran because, as you know, J.D. Vance went to Islamabad, Pakistan to try and work out a peace deal with Iran. J.D. Vance probably didn't want the war in Iran. I know he said different things at the RNC, but that was just rhetoric. I don't think J.D. Vance actually wanted to go to war with Iran. Reluctantly, he has to support the war because he is the vice president. He has no choice. He doesn't call the shots. He doesn't make the decisions. And he's been trying to broker peace. Why? Because he wants to save face and carry those bragging rights to the presidential debate stage in 2028. But he can't. And so he vaguely condemned Israel on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro spanked his ass. The moment he said it, he went home. Daddy Mark Levin grabbed the wooden spoon, spanked the shit out of him, and then J.D. Vance came back out and walked that shit back. So it's over for him. It's over for him. And I don't even think Marco Rubio, he may or may not run. I don't know. It's too early to really say. It's a wide open race. But what I can tell you is it's concerning to see what may happen in the future. Is there going to be anybody from the right that has influence, anybody from the right that's popular? It's kind of tough to see the potential of that future. So, not to start out all passionate, but every day it is something new with this war, and we've covered it so closely. We've gotten into the war extensively, and I've given you guys an update damn near every single day. I think this is day 180. We're in the 6th month of the war, and nothing is new, and the United States has not pushed back on Iran in any meaningful way. We've done nothing to really make Iran capitulate. They've made little to no concessions at all. And for what it's worth, I'll say this. You remember when Trump bombed Iran last year in the summer? He should have just kept going. If you knew you were going to get into a long-winded conflict with Iran, you should have just kept it going after that 12-day war between Iran and the Israelis when we came in and capped it out with bombing Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan, their nuclear facilities. We should have just kept going. Why? Because Iran probably wasn't as prepared then as they were when we attacked on February 28th. When we attacked on February 28th, the global community and Iran saw it coming. And so they were able to fortify even more. And Iran saw U.S. intervention and regime change attempts coming from the 90s because of what we were doing in the Middle East, and the clean break strategy was increasingly obvious. Netanyahu was obsessed with overthrowing the Iranian regime. That was the final goal, especially since October 7th with the battle against Hezbollah from the IDF. We saw that it was coming. But, it almost felt like maybe if Trump just got aggressive from an air campaign perspective in the summer of last year, maybe there would have been a better chance and we would have been able to catch Iran off guard a little bit more. But he gave them a full year, almost a full year to prepare. So this is the result of that. This is a well-prepared country that's more than equipped and ready to deal with economic hardship, strategic hardship, and they've been whooping Trump's ass on it. So there's that. I don't know if I want to lead with that story, though. We'll take a break because I'm always talking about the Middle East. Literally always talking about Iran. So we can get into the situation with Lindsay Clancy. Again, if you guys aren't familiar with Lindsay, I have some chats actually. Let me not get ahead of myself. Let me read these really quickly and then I'll get into this story. But yeah, this lady killed her kids. And, you know, we'll take a look. Okay. Let's see. Roman says, W Uncensored Ryad on OSS last night. Yeah, I was on my brother's stream last night behind the paywall, so I wasn't on YouTube. I was able to kind of let loose a little bit. I still have to be careful. So, yeah, my hair looks bad. Still have to be careful. My hair looks really bad. Embarrassing. Okay, John says, if she's not guilty, then so is Chris Benoit. Women. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Thanks for the 2, John, and shout out to you for always supporting the show. We'll go over this right now. So if you've been under a rock, then I guess I'll go over it from the top. But I think everybody's aware of this. Oops. There we are. Let me increase the size of my video here. So over 25,000 Lindsay Clancy fans have now raised over 830. This is old, by the way. It's already $1 million at this point. It's $1 million that they've raised. Clancy fans, I'll just kind of augment that, have raised over $1 million after she admitted to murdering her 3 young children. The GoFundMe account has been flooded with positive messages from her female supporters who are convinced she is the victim of mass or she is the victim, and then he's saying here separately, mass psychosis. And look at some of these comments. I wish I could hold you. I have suffered from mental illness for around 30 years, and so many failed you and your babies and failed all of us that suffers through these terrible illnesses and still continuously do so. I am so terribly sorry. We are thinking of you and rooting for you, Lindsay. You are so incredibly strong. You will make it through this. You now have millions of women supporting you. Millions of women supporting you now. And this is her, batshit crazy bitch. She's in a wheelchair because I think she jumped off of her building after she did it. I'm not even joking about that. Chad, do I have that right? I learned this yesterday, that she jumped off of a building. It's not funny, but she... I'm not laughing at that. Anyways, she jumped off a building because of how crazy she was after she did this. And so I don't know how old were the kids. She strangled all 3 of them, killed them. And look at the outpouring of support. I think this is a guy, Lindsay Eddy. Bro is white knighting. Bro said, watching this trial made it so evident to me why I had severe PPA and PPD with my ex-husband. Okay, this is a girl. L name for a girl. Last name's Eddy. I know the psychological manipulation and emotional trauma I went through and how many years it took to undo what he did to me. What? Undo what he did to me. I see you. I see you, we see you, and we are all supporting you. So, crazy stuff. And so, that leads us into the next crazy thing, which is, this is today. Oops, sorry. We're going to get to that in a moment. These are some funny videos that we'll get to in a moment. Supporters are now dressing in pink and gathering outside the Plymouth Superior Court for Lindsay Clancy. You can't make this up. Look at all these lunatics. These people, remember, guys, these people can vote. These people can drive. A lot of these women can probably obtain a firearm if they go through the due process. Because listen, you can't screen a retard. Remember this, okay? You can't screen a fucking crazy person or a retard, excuse my language. But listen, do a lot of crazy people get 5150'd and admitted into psych wards and they have a criminal history or they've done things historically that kind of show or telepath to the fact that they are psychos? Of course. And so we know and we steer clear of those people in society and the law flags them and whatever. But how many people walk amongst us, like these women and others, that have never actually necessarily done something, but their mental faculties are completely hijacked? They're in a mass psychosis. It's concerning. And that's the biggest thing that I draw away from all of this madness. And we're going to get into more of the videos here. This lady killed 3 of her kids, and women by the hundreds of thousands. I'm not even kidding. Really in the millions, because some of these TikToks supporting her are getting millions of likes. Women by the millions in the United States are supporting this woman. And let me draw out a clear distinction, or something that's important that I want to highlight as well. If this lady really suffered, I understand. Look, I'm not a fucking doctor, okay? Excuse my language. Look, postpartum psychosis, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying crazy things, one-off instances can't happen. Of course, it certainly can happen. Okay? And I'm sure I'm not the first to say that, but if I am, I guess I'll have to be the first to really reconcile and admit to the fact that women can go crazy when they have kids. I know that's a phenomenon. I know that's a thing. But why are we aggrandizing it? Why are we like demagoguing it? Why are we making it this big spectacle where other women feel like they relate to her? I'm sorry, you relate to this bitch who just choked 3 babies? Okay, you shouldn't have kids. Any woman who is supporting this lady publicly, I'm talking at these protests outside of the Plymouth Superior Court, making social media posts, whatever it is, any semblance of solidarity for this criminal who's in a wheelchair because she hurled herself from a high altitude. Anybody who's supporting her should be questioned, and their kids should be removed from their custody. Like, and that's just not even the fact that that may even be controversial among some women is really scary. And I know it, again, I know it's not all girls, but it's too many. And again, remember, as I was saying earlier, I was drawing out this conclusion, or rather this example, for an important reason. How many women are supporting her that are probably crazy, and they're not diagnosed clinically or anything like that? We don't know that they're crazy. These women can drive. These women can vote. So you know when most people say, oh, when you walk amongst people, a lot of people are dumb and most people are stupid. This is showing me most women are actually fucking crazy. Crazy. You know, there's no other word that is better fit for such a situation. We just live amongst monsters and psychos. And this comes from their ability to just not be able to take accountability. And by the way, why do you feel like you have to take accountability for this? Or I mean, you don't even, if a guy goes and does a murdering spree, I don't feel compelled or guilty to where I need to take accountability and say, I speak on behalf of all men when I say what he did was very wrong. He's not even representative of me. And so a lot of women who are quiet are obviously implying that this is not even representative of what a woman would ever do. But all of these batshit crazy bitches here are showing they are likely to display similar characteristics and or behaviors. They should all go to jail. They should all be vigorously questioned. Right? So it is concerning times we're living in. And there's videos like this for days. I mean, we could just go down the timeline on X. Here, let me get this on the screen. So, and my apologies if there's hiccups in the way I'm doing this. I kind of have my OBS and my setup augmented differently today, trying something new. But yeah, these are the scenes outside the courthouse with a baby. Okay, baby should be taken from her. Scary stuff, man. Very scary stuff. And this is not, I'm not like dragging it. You know, this isn't propaganda. Look at this. Okay, so this here reads, women lining up to wave to Lindsay Clancy arriving at court today. So I guess she's in this van. Like I said, I have really not been following it until I saw this mass psychosis of women. Yeah. And really, the concern is not even what we're seeing in person. To be honest, this is not that scary or remarkable. What is concerning is some of these videos. I had this queued up actually, so it's convenient that we just came across it. Lindsay Clancy supporters are making insane videos smashing and destroying things like blocks of ice to prevent themselves from bashing in their children's skulls. So this is what women are doing now to cope with their postpartum anger and psychosis. Mind you, she set the camera up before she did this. And I said this yesterday on my brother's stream. It's like, bro, I can't stand, I can't even bear the sight of people who said, I cooked some guy the other day for crying on camera. You're going to have an emotional outburst. You're going to react in some way. You're going through something. The moment you set the phone up or the camera up to film and document that and then post it online, not just for yourself, post it online, all your actions are nullified in terms of how legitimate they were. You're LARPing. You're role playing. It's all a facade, right? So part of this is concerning and scary because these women are, again, standing in solidarity with a murderer and trying to acquit her of her disgusting actions and admonish her of her guilt. You have that, but then you also have the fact that they're just using this for a clout grab and screaming on camera, throwing ice at a wall, and it's just like everything is messed up here. So she grabs this. Mood. Such a mood. It's like so cringe, bro. And like this lady probably has kids. Look, there's another one here. The aftermath. Crushed ice on the floor.
Hey, you want to see what it's like to rage? I'm so effing sick of people taking advantage of me and manipulating me and making me feel not seen when I am very freaking loud. I deserve to be freaking heard. So fucking tired of stupid ass people. People who don't deserve me. People who don't fucking see me. For everything I am. So tired. Fucking tired. I'm so fucking tired. So tired. I'm so fucking tired. Stupid. Freaking people.
Somebody in the chat says progressives. Hey, for what it's worth, not to make this, it is political, right? Excuse me. For what it's worth, these women are aligned with the left more than anything. Do you see why they can't have power? Do you see why people say, Ryad, you're in the Matrix, we're talking about the right-left paradigm? Okay. You know what I want to do? You know what I want to do when people say the right and the left doesn't exist? I want to say, fine. I want to just roll back here and say, we'll let you make the decisions. We'll let you do the call-outs. I dare you to let these people have power for one moment. Not necessarily these women, but the faction in which they represent, these far leftists, these progressives, they are retarded. They're retarded. I'm not talking about Democrats. No, I'm talking about the people who are actually earning political capital in the United States right now. These democratic socialists of America. By the way, Mamdani included. Mamdani just knows how to play face. Don't get it twisted for a moment. These people want to rid the police of any pay. They want to defund or abolish ICE. Many of them say abolish ICE. Defund the police. Get rid of borders. Mass amnesty to immigrants. Socialism for all. Healthcare for all. Tax the rich. Hassan Piker says things like profit is evil. Anybody who makes profit is evil. Do you think there's any reasoning or reconciliation with these people to even the slightest degree? The answer is no. You can't negotiate with fucking terrorists. And that's what these women and the political ideology is that they represent. That's what they are. They are terrorists. They are people who sympathize with murderers when it benefits them. They are people who try and sympathize with the most disgusting and grave actions if it means defending their own. And honestly, there's a lesson to be learned here. This shows that the right lacks a lot of unity and loyalty amongst one another, which is why it's so fractured anyways. When you think about the right wing, think about all the people who come out of the right. Marco Rubio was against Trump. J.D. Vance was against Trump. Lindsey Graham was against Trump. Ted Cruz was against Trump. These are some big right-wing names I'm naming here, and they all have legislative power and or influence in the United States right now. And what did they all do? Capitulate for Trump. They never stood on business. The right wing has like no core or backbone like the left does. I have to admit that. The left has a core or backbone, and for them, there's no capitulation. How do we know that? Because people who are centrists, people who are vaguely kind of libertarian are not enough for these kinds of people. Joe Rogan and Tim Pool are called Nazis. In the comment section of Tim Pool's most recent video where he debated 20 people on Jubilee, which I would love to react to, but I'm going to get copyrighted for it, people were calling him, these progressives were calling him a Nazi, a neo-Nazi white supremacist sympathizer. I'm sorry, Tim Pool, this is the guy who says the Iran war is to defeat China. He's a Nazi? He's a Nazi? This is the guy who, and I'm not trying to attack Tim, but he actually makes apology for Israel a lot of the time and rids them of the guilt they so deservingly always should be called out for. So, you know, it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So this is what, you know, when I say there is no right and left, that's Matrix, Ryad, you need to get your head out of that. All right, let's wait until who these people vote for takes power in 2029, and we'll see what happens to the country. We will see what happens to the country. And I'm not saying I want to see it crash and burn, so I'm proven right. I'm not saying that. But, you know, I have no choice but to give my opinion. And if it happens, I'm just going to have to stand at the tail end of that administration, whatever it is. God forbid, right? But, you know, in 2030, 2032, and I'm going to have to say I told you so. And look, I blame Trump. I shit on Trump for a living. My AdSense comes from shitting on Trump. Let's be real. I always talk poorly about the president. I condemn him. I am always critical of him because of the mistakes he's made. So I'm not saying that it's just the left winning. It's also because Trump is ruining any potential of a Republican Party having validity and or bragging rights in 2028 because of the mistakes he's made. I recognize that completely. So Trump has also destroyed the GOP. He's destroyed the vehicle in which the GOP can assert itself into and drive to the finish line, because anybody who comes out of the right now has to answer questions as to why we started a forever war in the Middle East, why we plummeted our economy into the toilet. So I recognize that. But, you know, it's really like, for me, I'm just withholding the vote because what are we going to deal with this?
So does
That's so crazy. Yeah, it's over. It's over for us. There's more videos too, but I don't even know. Should we even spend the time going through those? Should we even humor ourselves? We can look through more of these, see what these women had to say.
I don't know if us being here will make her feel any better, but I mean, she's living in hell right now.
Just wanted to support Lindsay and just say it could be, you know, one of my sister-in-laws, it could be one of my best friends, and it could be me.
Hey, bro, my sister-in-law does this. I'm disowning her. I'm disavowing her.
So just here to support.
My best friend does this. That's not my best friend. If my best friend chokes and kills his kids and says, hey, bro, I just went crazy, I'd be like, look, I'm not defending you. And you're no longer my friend. Officer, right there, he did it. These are things you cannot defend.
We are hearing her. We see that she tried everything. And I really do believe that she went into a state of psychosis.
Clancy's supporters call her attorney Kevin Reddington a champion of women's rights.
Translation, super white knight simp.
Is she aware of this support, and what does she think of this support?
I'm going to go in and see her right now. I'm sure that she is, and if she isn't, she will be.
What do you think about?
She's so beat up and just so sad. This will really help her out, I think.
Tell her we love her. The crowd of about 200 to 300 people lined the road as Lindsay Clancy was brought into the courthouse.
I hope when this is all over that the medical field gets...
Just look at her. You could tell this is a bat crazy bitch. You can just tell she's got nothing behind those eyes. Crazy ass old white woman, got nothing behind those eyes. She's got the typical disgusting mutt dog, non-breed dog, mysterious ass mystery meat fucking dog. She just looks crazy. This is the typical archetype of these crazy deranged women who can never seek accountability.
Held responsible for some of this because she tried. She tried desperately.
Isn't that so? Why do leftists always have ugly ass dogs? Is that not real? Like, Like, bro.
to get help, and it wasn't there.
And some people would say, hey, Ryad, that's insensitive. Listen, there's ugly dogs out there. Okay, I'm not about to do the whole cope like humanitarian, super positive guy thing. There's some really filthy, ugly, disgusting dogs out there. Bro, you get to choose the dog you want. You want to adopt and not get a dog from a breeder? No problem. How about you choose the dog that doesn't look like a piece of salami when you're at the adoption center or the dog shelter? Why don't you choose the dog that doesn't have a disfigured face? Look, if you want to get a dog with like one eye or some shit, fair, whatever. But like, good for you. But you know, get a cute dog. Get like a handsome dog. I've always said on record, if I go get a dog, it's gonna be a sharp, you know what I mean, like a sharp Doberman, a border collie, a black German Shepherd, something that's aura, something that will mog when I'm walking in, not this disgusting mutt, you know. So I've never it's only like a progressive thing. They just get these mysterious vermin-like animals.
Whether she's guilty, innocent.
I'm just really ripped. Well, the dog didn't do anything. I just ripped on the dog for no reason, by the way. I should really be ripping on her, but I just can't help it.
It doesn't really matter. 3 lives are gone. And so just get to the truth. That's all.
Look at this. So these are the kids. It's just so disheartening. And me and my brother and I spoke about it. And at this point last night, she racked in $982,000. I'm sure it's well over $1 million now at this point.
Lindsay Clancy's birth chart.
What is this? Thousands of women saying Lindsay Clancy could have not possibly killed her 3 children because she's a Leo and Leos don't kill. Oh.
Lindsay Clancy's birth chart. It's so crazy. No, I don't have the time of birth. So
this is why I don't. Hey, I want to just say this really quick. You know what I've made a habit of doing? I've made a habit of not responding to stupid ass Twitter replies on some of my tweets and YouTube comments. Why? Not even responding. Like, even if they're berating me, attacking me, disagreeing with me, you never know. This is why you don't fight on the internet, guys. You never know who's actually on the other side of the screen. These are the people we walk amongst. This is the people who are a part of the society. The society that makes up the United States. This is what it, especially from the female side, is largely comprised of. Women who say Lindsay Clancy could have never possibly killed her children because she was born in a certain month. And she went crazy if she did it anyway, so she should be admonished of her actions. These are the people. This is why I don't respond, because I just assume, and you should make the same assumption, 9 out of 10 people are this retarded. Not to play like the hierarchical game, like I'm so much smarter than people. That's not it at all. It's just we really do share society with some very deranged lunatics. So, you know, when I see these Instagram and TikTok comments, it's not even worth it. Why argue with an idiot? You're just going to have to stoop down to their level. That's why, like, certain debates are just silly to me. Like, I would never debate somebody on this topic. Let's say somebody came to me and said, Ryad, debate Lindsay Clancy and whether she was right or not. No, I'm actually not going to sit here and defend the fact that killing 3 kids is wrong. That goes without saying. We've lost the plot at that point. What is society anymore if I have to debate that? What is the world? This is why, like, debating these child killers, these people who defend what's happening in Gaza, I think is largely useless as well, because these are monsters. These aren't humans. So, like, at some point, there's diminishing returns. At some point, it really doesn't make sense anymore. Debate somebody from the left, debate somebody with a different ideology, totally for it. Like, I get it. Even if somebody's worldview is asinine, sometimes you can kind of understand where they're coming from in the slightest, but like somebody who's defending murder of 3 babies, yeah, I'm not going to actually step up to the plate and talk to you. You're too crazy to be spoken to. You need to be in a psych ward. You need to be in a straitjacket. I'm calling the police. You need to be arrested and sent to a mental asylum. You don't need to be sitting here debating me. You need help.
Oh.
You're barely a human. Do you even have a soul? Why should I debate you?
Really, you can disregard the ascendant, descendant, IC, MC, vertex, and all the houses. I need the birth time.
Look at the forensic astrology for the event. It's wild. Basically states that he did it and drugged her. 1,700 likes, by the way. Random comment on TikTok.
So, like, not all of these aspects are necessary.
And her lawyer being an Aquarius is exactly what she needed. What the fuck? Oh my God. We really do live amongst kooks, huh? We really live amongst crazy people. It's scary, man. It is scary. This is why, hey, I'm drawing this out to larger lessons. I really hope you guys extract some value from this. This is why when somebody honks at me on the road, I actually don't pull over and try and step out the car and question them like you see in some of these road rage videos that go viral. I don't do it. When somebody cuts me off in traffic, I take the high road. I just let them go. I don't follow people on the road. I don't get into quarrels with people in public, and I avoid confrontation. You really never know how crazy the person is that you're dealing with. You never know. Say one of these women in this comment section cut me off in traffic, and they're wrong. From the standard of traffic violation, from the standard of the law, they're legally wrong in the way they cut me off, or they brake check me, or they, pull out in front of me, whatever it is. I won't even argue with them. Why would I argue with somebody who thinks that the lawyer being an Aquarius of the situation where the person he's representing killed 3 people has to do with the case, and that the husband's guilty as a result? Does that even make any sense? Are you even piecing together what I'm trying to tell you? That's why I really just avoid and steer clear of confrontation in public, because first of all, you never know what the other person has to lose. Could be a lot less than you have to lose, but also you don't know how crazy people are. We really live in an abundance of crazy people. We walk amongst true psychopaths. So, next time you lash out in public and get mad and stuff, just remember this could likely be who you're dealing with. And hey, this goes for men too, for what it's worth. There's a lot of crazy guys out there as well. A lot of really crazy guys out there as well.
Really
so
true, because all those points, we don't really know. I just put it at noon. But first of all, let me just show.
But if a guy choked his kids, I don't think men would come out and support it like this, obviously. This shows a larger issue. And this is feminism, by the way. This is what feminism brings us. Feminism brings us deranged, ideological women who believe that they can do no wrong and that the earth revolves around them and then everybody is subordinate to them. That is what feminism really is. It is demonic in and of itself. In its essence, it's demonic. It is anti-biblical. Everything holy it goes against. And when you really string it out long enough, when you strip all the layers back, it brings you things like this as well. Murderers, psychos, anything that's not to get too trad, right? Not to get too TPUSA. I don't want to do that. But anything that is anti-biblical, anything that is anti-God is, for all intents and purposes, inherently demonic. Isn't that the way it must go? Isn't that the way it must follow? And then what must follow from that necessarily is the case that you'll get people who defend murderers, and that does actually stem from feminism, because women are taught not to take accountability as a product of feminism, as a result of feminism. So men are always wrong. The bitch kills her kids, jumps out of a building, but because she was born in a certain month, it had to have been her husband who did it because of this kookery demonic chart we're looking at. And you're supposed to get out of your car in traffic and argue with these women when they cut you off. Take the high road. You shouldn't even be interacting with these people. These people are capable of killing you.
So, notice anything here? She's got her North Node Aquarius, South Node
What are we even looking at?
Leo. She's in her noble return right now.
It's been a while, but I have to pop on here just to say that I've been following this Lindsay Clancy trial, especially as a mother of 2 who dealt with a lot of postpartum mental illness.
And by the way, as I've stated, women can deal with some postpartum issues. I understand that is a natural reflection of life. I understand that actually can happen scientifically. I'm not glossing over that, but I'm also not going to excuse killing 3 kids. We should draw a clear distinction between that, right? So just for the record.
And, just following all their birth charts and birthdays and zodiac signs, he did it. He's a Gemini man. His birthday is June 15th. I'm a Gemini woman. My birthday is June 14th. Let me give you another example of who a Gemini man is. Also birthday June 14th. Men and women are different. Keep that in mind. Please don't judge me. Donald Trump. Patrick did it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Wait, what? Wait. I missed that. I was looking at something else. What does Trump have to do with any of this?
My birthday is June 14th. Let me give you another example of who a Gemini man is. Also birthday June 14th. Men and women are different. Keep that in mind. Please don't judge me. Donald Trump. Patrick did it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So if you're watching the Lindsay Clancy case, I've already gone over the forensic astrology.
All right, guys. I got a lot of stuff to cover, and I think I'm losing IQ actively as we cover this. So,
chit chat. All right, he did it, Patrick.
Actress. Oh my God, that's bad. That's funny. Also, actress Lisa Rinna says that her and her therapist agreed Patrick Clancy framed his wife for killing their children because women don't strangle.
Because, you know, I also heard that women typically don't strangle. So awful to even say, but that isn't what a woman would do. They don't strangle. I was actually in therapy today, and my therapist and I were talking about it, and I said, well, what do they do? She said, well, they poison, or I said, oh, or drown them. Like, we literally had that conversation today.
Whew. Behind the wheel of a vehicle, by the way, like operating a 4,000-pound hunk of metal.
You can actually hear.
Tell that bitch to shut up.
Lindsay crying, saying, "I can't do it."
What about injuries?
The judge even notices this and calls for a break.
All right, counsel could. Bro, if it were a man doing this, bro, they would have kicked him out the courtroom, bro. It's like women just get like so much. It's fucking ridiculous. So fucking ridiculous. The theatrics are insane. You know, it's like, bruh. Like, nigga, we're not the ones that killed your kid, bro. You did, you dumb whore. Told y'all. Bro, a woman's tears are only legit when she's crying in solitude, man. Fucking so fake. So fucking fake, bro. Painful.
Her desk, and she continues to cry during the testimony.
So your testimony is that
Yeah.
By the way, how many times do women cry and they're still guilty? How many times do women cry and they're still guilty? You catch a girl cheating, she cries. Fuck are you crying for? You cheated, nigga. Why are you crying? So that's common. Okay, that's a theme. Women literally, you know, bomb a building, shoot up a school, choke 3 kids, and then they cry when they're met with the guilt. And it's like, gang, you did it. What actually are you crying about? And she pled guilty, didn't she?
She just so happens to be crying during the most critical some of the most important testimonies. She's just crying loudly like a fucking annoying ass bitch.
been strangling someone for 30 seconds, let go.
It's incredible. And the only reason she's doing this, chat, just so you guys know, is because she knows that, like, no one's gonna tell her, yo, shut the fuck up, bitch. No one's gonna tell her anything. This is just the world that we live in now.
We need Myron in the court.
Days where it's like women are able to just...
Judge Myron, bring it forth. Judge Myron, tell that hoe to shut the... All right.
Say and do whatever the fuck they want. No consequence.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Look at her eyes, bro. I mean, I don't mean... Look, and this is the shit like the kooks do. I'm not doing that. But really, like, okay, look at her. She really does look fucking crazy. She really does look crazy. You know, people always drag the, like, oh, they look crazy thing. Some people don't look as crazy as people make it out to seem. No. It'd be crazy. Okay, so, yeah. And in comparison, 3 Digless, thank you for the 10. I saw what you said. Yeah, in comparison to her husband,
14.
She looks way crazier.
Did it.
I mean, totally normal looking guy here in comparison to her. Oh, you're biased. Yeah, I am biased. She choked 3 kids and killed them. So, it is pretty concerning. Here we got more.
Travels. I am completely overwhelmed trying to take...
Same. Okay, so she says here, same Lindsay, as the baby is in her chest with a pacifier. Okay, Child Protective Services, right here. Go get her. Hey, CPS. Hey, Child Protective Services. Local county police, wherever the fuck this batshit crazy bitch is. Right here. Here's a job for you. Go take the kid from her. By the way, let's talk about this. What are these kids going to do when they grow up and see their parents 10 or 20 years ago on social media sympathizing with a lady who choked 3 kids? What are they going to think? If I grew up, right? Say I wasn't Gen Z, but I was born today. And, you know, in 2040, I look back on my mom's TikTok archive and I see my mom went on TikTok and posted a video sympathizing with a woman who strangled 3 kids and then says, same Lindsay. And in that video, she's holding me in her arms. I would be like, Mom, what the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with you, Mom? Did you want to kill me too? What did you mean by that? Child Protective Services, right here. DCF, right here. Come get this lady. Freebie, this is easy. No investigation required. She's sympathizing with a psycho murderer. And she's relating to her. She's not just sympathizing with her. The two are different. She's relating to her. So if we ever had an obvious eventual murderer on our hands, I think it's quite obvious in this instance. Arrest her.
Kids, I'm drowning every day. I feel guilty that I'm spending my family's...
And it's LARP. Like they're holding the phone as they do this. They're like holding the phone. I will never, ever, I don't care why you're crying. If you set up a phone and cry, like, what are you doing?
Money and not making any. I feel like I spend way too much. She wrote that, right? Correct. I'm terrified of Callan getting sick. He's a sick baby. A sick baby is miserable. He's sick now.
This is actually unnerving. This is horrifying.
With a double ear infection, clearly has a belt.
How dare you be... You know how many women struggle to have fucking kids, you stupid, nasty, ugly bitch, you fat, ugly... All right. We're going to take it easy. You know how many women struggle to have children? How many parents are not blessed with the ability by God to have kids? And here you are blessed with your child and you say, same, Lindsay. I get it when you choke your 3 kids. Here's my baby in this video as I'm crying with her. Same, Lindsay. You know, shame on these women. Honestly, shame on these women. This is scary stuff.
Incredibly sad and guilty about not breastfeeding anymore.
And they're all chopped. It's only the chopped ones. I have yet to see a pretty girl do this.
Correct. And then the statement started getting smaller and smaller as time went by.
This is a result of a lack of male attention, huh? You can't get it good either way. You give them too much attention, they turn into pretentious assholes. You don't give them enough attention, they kill their kids. You can't get it either way. No one gets their cake, huh?
Occasion, it's like I'm desperate to get a mental break from taking care of everyone. My mind is trying to make something physically. Wrote that.
This is crazy stuff, dude.
Like myself again.
Yeah. Get the dog and the kid away from this lady immediately. Immediately. And by the way, where's the husband? Where is the father? Where's the husband? Where's the father? Hey, bro, get her. Stop her. You know? But he already made a mistake in marrying her. He probably didn't see the issue at the beginning, so. Or having kids with her, I guess. Yeah, but, you know, it's crazy. What is...
Children and dinner for the...
Okay, we'll keep moving. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I saw what Candace said. I'm just going to have to say I disagree. Okay? I'm just going to have to say I disagree with this.
My thoughts clear on this. The moment that she was arrested, the moment that it made the news, Lindsay Clancy is obviously not guilty. There are a fleet of doctors who should be imprisoned for what they put her on. I regularly speak out against Big Pharma. They get away with murder all the time. And in this case, they are getting away with the murder of really her 3 children, but also completely destroyed her life. When Lindsay Clancy, in my opinion, is not guilty. She was put into an intentional psychosis when she probably just needed to give her kids away for a weekend to get better, but they constantly...
Oh, no. A weekend was going to fix a psychotic murderer.
They give you these drugs that do not make things better. And the cocktail of 10 pharmaceuticals that she was on is absolute madness. Absolute madness. I made my thoughts clear on this.
Anyways, so where were we? It's like, bro, We do live in hell. So let's go over the situation in the Middle East. This is important, okay? This is important. I have some chats. I'll read these in a moment. But we'll go over Trump's Truth Social post with economic D-Day. We'll read a little bit of this article as well. It's titled Trump Threatens to Put a Focus on Iran's Trading Partners. And then I had a video by Tim Pool. We can react to it where Tim Pool is just disgustingly coping. I was very disappointed in Tim after I saw this video. And it's not the first time I've been disappointed in him. He's had pretty bad takes for a while now with respect to Israel and the situation in the Middle East. So we will also talk about that. We'll touch on that as well. But this is pretty funny. When you tell your girlfriend that mothers who kill their own children deserve to be in prison. Yo, do you see, by the way, like now men are arguing with their girlfriends over this and they're breaking up with them as a result. That's crazy. Which rightfully so. Hey, guys at home, good litmus test for your girlfriend. Bring this up to her. If she defends it, run. Run. Do you see me? It's like the flash goes off in Get Out, in the movie Get Out, when the flash goes off and like you snap back, run. Like I'm telling you. Scary stuff, man. At the least, if she's not saying the bitch was crazy, you know, bitch kills the kids, blame the doctors, right? It's unreal, dude. It's unbelievable. And hey, even if the doctors made a mistake, why is everybody celebrating it and relating to it? The bigger issue with all of this, look, that bitch is going to be crazy. This is important. Let me say this. And I feel like this goes without saying, but you got to highlight these things and really string it out into words. The biggest issue with all of this, make no mistake, is not even, don't miss this for a moment, it's not even the fact that this girl went out and killed 3 of her kids, that she strangled her kids and jumped off a building, whatever the hell she did. That is disgusting. It's demonic. We've already went over how grotesque it is, but that's not even the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that women are coming out in solidarity with her, and worst of all, I know it gets worse than this, they're relating to her. Women are relating to her. How could you relate to a murderer? It doesn't matter why. How could you relate to a murderer? Oh, because she had this cocktail of drugs that drove her to do it, and if she had a weekend, she would have not have done it. So we relate to that? We relate to that? Even with that poor excuse, let's just grant the argument for the sake of what I'm trying to draw out as a larger conclusion. We then relate to her? That's the most grave concern of everything here. That's what's shocking me. I would have never covered this case if it weren't for that. Because let's be real, shit happens like this every day. We don't have time to cover these small stories. It's sad. It's horrible. And my thoughts and prayers are with the family. However, the biggest issue with all of this is the fact that women are saying, oh yeah, I relate. Oh, she just killed her 3 kids. Oh, she just hurled her kids off a balcony. Oh yeah, I relate to that. I'm sorry, what? Go back. What did you say? What did you just say? So DCF. Get to work. Get to business. All these women should be locked the fuck up. You're outside that courthouse in a pink shirt. You're on TikTok saying, I relate. You're on TikTok throwing ice at a wall. And this is your way of a different outlet for the energy that would have been, in fact, been redirected. If you didn't redirect that energy, then that energy would have went to your kids being dead. You know, that's what they're implicating. When these women are taking ice out of the bowl and throwing it at the wall and screaming like retards, they're implicating that if they didn't do that, then they would go and do something harmful to their children. I'm sorry, why are you doing that? And why are you filming it? And then why are you relating it to Lindsay Clancy's trial? You have a moment as a mom where it's getting tough to raise the kids? I get it. Put your fucking phone down and go relieve your anger in a way that no one can ever see it, and don't relate to a murderer. It's unbelievable I have to spell this out. So yeah, we live amongst monsters, and increasingly, the degradation of society, it's just been in front of us. You don't have to search for it anymore. Society is decaying and degrading real time. Deteriorating effects everywhere. Everywhere you look, it's just getting worse and worse. And the left accelerates this type of cancer. They don't withhold it. They don't halt it. They accelerate it. They reward this behavior. So, you know, lock them up. Lock them up. Warden, lock them up. Get the keys. Throw them away. We can't have these women out in society. No. Lock them up. Crazy stuff, man. Troubling times we live in, huh? This is funny, though. This is from the Obsession movie. If you guys didn't see this, it was a good movie. I thought it was a funny movie at times, but if you didn't watch and you watched the movie, that meme becomes a lot funnier, I must admit. But, all right. So let's see where we are here. I'll read some chats and then we can get into this article. Maybe I can have a video ready, but honestly, I'll just talk about it because my brother and I covered it already yesterday. Maybe we can go over the Florida election as well. Miriam Adelson went to personally congratulate Randy Fine, allegedly. I don't know how true it is, but there's this picture of these two shaking hands, and it's like just hell in a photo, so we can react to that as well. But I'll read these chats first. So let's jump on this. Let's see. Mr. Ferdinand says the women/Islam segment last night was hilarious. Oh, yeah, on OSS? Yeah, bro. Look, say what you want about Islam. We've got things figured out over here. Albo Ace says, I'm done with Western women, bro. Big W to the Taliban. Thank you for the 5, Albo Ace. Yeah, I mean, bro, this just comes from not policing. Like, we have to police one another in this society. No one's policing anybody. The men are too scared to say anything because if they do, they're misogynists. So they just let this shit pass, and it culminates into this, where we sympathize with murderers. And by we, I mean humans, non-humans, women. I'm the human. They're not human. Dogs can't escape the black pill. They can't. They can't, bro. Thank you for the 5, the sandwich. Some dogs are fucking ugly. Okay? Some dogs are ugly. I got a couple friends that got some ugly-ass dogs, and I let them know, yo, you got an ugly-ass dog, nigga. I don't give a shit. I'll be like, yo, you got one ugly-ass dog. Some short-haired, mixed, ambiguous mutt. Gross. Look at my brother's dog. Here, hang on. Let me get this. Let me pull this up here. This is really hell in a photo, isn't it? Like, what a terrifying photo. Is this real? This could be AI. I don't know if it's real. But anyways, look at my brother's photo. My brother's dog. Look at Frank. Full-bred border collie, cute guy. Pause. I'm talking about a dog here. And, you know, first of all, border collies are smart. So they actually serve, they have function. You know, you walk them off leash. If you got animals, they can herd the animals. They could be a guard dog. You know, actual useful dog with utility. I guess this is Frank's brother. Meeting after 2 years. But yeah, like, bro, you know, listen, having a dog is tiresome enough. Okay, you've got to feed it, walk it, bathe it, groom it. You got to play with it, especially if you have a working dog like a border collie or a German shepherd or one of these high energy dogs in general. It takes a lot out of your life. I know, because a lot of my friends are dog owners and I love dogs. But if you're going to have one and it's going to draw all that out of your life, at least make sure the dog is cute. At least make sure the dog is aesthetic. I don't know. Is that shallow of me to say? I don't like ugly things. Sorry. I just don't like ugly things. So, not saying I'm super good looking or anything, but, you know, you can't control if you're ugly or not. God really makes you the way you are. You're cooked if you're cooked. You can control what kind of dog you own. Take that for what it's worth. Ugly nigga walking an ugly dog is crazy. Anyways, Jer says, thank you for the 5. He says, they'll defend illegals and cry for them, but support this crazy lady. I'm saying, bro. Yeah, it's nuts. It is well, they'll defend anybody because illegals break the law as well, and this woman broke the law. They'll defend anybody who breaks the law. The thing about the left is they're just lawless. They don't believe in law. And that is what is necessary of progressivism. The ideology and the means to the end of progressivism is within the name. To progress is to change, is to riddle change upon society. That is why they mobilize. That is why they protest. That is why they're anti-government. They're anarchists in some respects. They're Antifa. They burn cities down when the black person dies. Do you understand? They protest in mass amounts. They say no kings. They don't like law. They don't like order. They don't like control. They like a loose society where everybody can do what they want. So this is a true and tangible ideology that is more than obvious for anybody who has half of a brain. For anybody who's got a working, functioning brain, you know exactly where this comes from. You've seen it before. You know people who think like this, and you can't allow these people to have influence or power. Legislatively, militarily, whatever it is, these people cannot have power. They would destroy the country as we know it today. So, just from a foundational aspect, the underlying establishing factors of these people is concerning. It's not even about what they're saying. It's not even about their goals. I'll have to say the only thing that actually makes sense from the left, and one thing that I can get with, is their economic ideas. You know, I think those are favorable to the populace. I think that healthcare for all is viable. I think that's legit. I would love if a right-wing candidate spouted the same thing. So, but everything else is completely, can't be on board with that. What, because they don't take AIPAC money? Oh, this candidate doesn't take AIPAC money, so let's let them destroy the country instead. What the fuck? The fuck kind of sense does that make? Take a couple steps forward to take 100 backwards. Okay, they don't take AIPAC money, but they haven't done anything to Israel anyways. What are they going to do when they win legislative power? Not give Israel money? At this point, they don't need it. Iran is already fighting the U.S. Israel's already gotten everything they wanted out of the United States. They really don't need much help further. So, you know, being anti-Israel is great. Not taking AIPAC money is great, and I'm down with that, and I respect that. But they understand how grand that is to capture the right. They understand how big of a deal that is to capture the libertarians and the centrists, and they are subverting them. They are deceiving them, rather. They are deceiving them because when these people earn power, when these people win, I'm talking win big time, when they're in the White House, they will scare the shit out of you, and you will quickly realize any support you had for them is gone now. And they're going to walk back all the anti-Israel talking points anyways. You have to police Israel. They're the only Middle Eastern power with a nuke. Good luck trying to leave them alone with the nuke. While you got Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan building a coalition, and Israel sitting alone with no U.S. support with a nuke, we unfortunately are in a position where we have to be in the region and police it so they don't kill 1 billion Muslims. If we left Israel alone, it's not out of the question. It's not implausible to suggest that they could kill millions of Muslims in the matter of a few weeks or a month if we leave them alone. You know, what would the Middle East do with an Israel that is not supported by the United States? That's a big issue. That's a big issue. The only reason Iran has probably been reluctant in being offensive against Israel is because the U.S. will clap their ass if they do. So it all goes back to the left being lawless. It all goes back to, look, I get it. The anti-Israel rhetoric is popular. It makes sense. It carries weight. It's great. I am a Muslim. Nobody wants more anti-Israel policy than me. Of course. But with that, we also have to understand we live in the United States of America. If these people earn political capital, if these people earn legislative power, they will destroy the nation. Socialism? Exactly how far will that go? Centralize the U.S., make everything centralized? Take money from people who have money, tax the rich? No more profit. Profit is evil? You know, these people think killing politicians is the answer. Seriously. So, not to do this monologue again, but I can't harp on it enough. It's very important we understand that. Very important we understand that. If postpartum depression is such a big issue, then perhaps women should not be given the custody of the children. Yeah. If women want to join hands and say we have postpartum depression and psychosis, all right, just let guys raise the kids themselves because you are liable to kill the children, apparently. Thanks for the 5. 3 Diglett says all you have to do is see their eyes, look at the dude's eyes, and look at her eyes. Case closed. Yeah, I know. Very stark difference there. We looked at that. Thank you, 3 Diglett, for the 10. One Truth C says, where are these women's loved ones to stop them? This trend is dangerous and should be flagged as child endangerment. That's what I'm saying. Where are the arrests? And this is Trump. Trump, what are you doing? This is the fucking problem with Donald Trump. This is the problem. You have executive power. You have the Department of Justice. You have the FBI. You should be I know they're in the millions and the thousands. Make an example out of a couple of these women and have them arrested. Have them investigated. Have their children taken away. Have Child Protective Services pull up on them and actually consider taking the kids away. Send a message to these women. But no, Trump is going to impose economic embargo on Iran. Okay, that's going to do something, right? This is the problem. This administration is all they campaigned on was shutting this shit down, and now the left is running wild, doing whatever they want. So it's like, bro, do something. Do something. You literally have power. Do something. It's so frustrating. JT97, thank you for the 20. It says the message is retracted. I'm not sure why, but thanks for the 20. Appreciate that. 3 Diglett says all you have to do is see their eyes, look at the dude's eyes, and look at her eyes. Case closed. Yeah, I know. Very stark difference there. 4 Diglett says all you have to do is see their eyes, look at the dude's eyes, and look at her eyes. Case closed. Yeah, I know. Very stark difference there. 5 Diglett says all you have to do is see their eyes, look at the dude's eyes, and look at her eyes. Case closed. Yeah, I know. But anyways, it is crazy. It's crazy stuff, man. Crazy, crazy stuff. And so, yeah, this picture here. Is this AI? Guys, is this real? Let me fact check this. Hang on. Let's see if this is real. I don't know if anybody in the chat knows. Yes, I don't know if this picture is real. But regardless, look, it's emblematic of something that I was going to cover. We saw the Florida race too. And you know what? Maybe I'll do Iran before that. But of course, if you don't know, Randy Fine won the congressional election for the primary. Well, the primary, not the general, of course. In Florida's congressional 6th district against Dan Bilzerian. And you know what's crazy? I know all of you guys have been following this. We spoke about it in a video a few months back. Dan Bilzerian got 18% of the vote. That is actually a respectable amount of the electorate. And so what would have happened if he actually campaigned hard? As we know, of course, no shade to him. He wasn't, campaigning, gunning, going crazy, sweating, beating himself up to, what if he actually put some legitimate effort like Fishback did? If Fishback ran in Florida's 6th district, he may have actually won. He probably would have won. Obviously, Fishback is competing against Byron Donalds, who not only is sponsored by Trump, but outpaced him with budget like 200 to 1 or 200 to 2, something like that. And on top of that, Florida is 23.5 million people. That's a wide net to cast in terms of influence and campaigning structure. So, if you have any sort of political literacy, you understood from the beginning it was going to be tough for James Fishback to win, but he still did get 10%. And of that 10%, I think many of them, if not a majority of them, were under the age of 30. And so we see where Gen Z is going. We see where even the 30-plus-year-olds are going. It's all going towards the America First anti-Israel movement, whether it's on the right or the left. And so I thought that was a powerful thing as well to pay attention to. But I mean, DSA candidates are winning in Florida. So the right has a lot of work to do still, but I thought that was hopeful, especially Dan Bilzerian's numbers. He got 18%, and Randy Fine is incumbent, right? So pretty remarkable. And all he did was just ratio Randy Fine on X. He didn't do much campaigning. These are things to consider. So anyways, we will talk about Iran. I got a bunch of things here queued up from the Hormuz letter. We can quickly read this New York Times article. So the latest update in the Middle East is very simple. Obviously, Israel bombed a military base in Syria, and they're doing that to undercut Turkey's influence in Syria in the Idlib province. We covered that yesterday. If you missed that, go check it out. I don't want to go into that story because it's not that interesting. But I think the more important thing to talk about right now is Trump's proposed economic D-Day against Iran. So let's take a look at this. This is from the New York Times. It says here, Trump threats put focus on Iran. Trump threat puts focus on Iran in trading partners. President Trump appeared to suggest that the U.S. would impose economic penalties on countries that do business with Iran, though he did not specify what actions he would take. Of course he didn't. But here is his post from Truth Social. This was 2 days ago, I believe, at this point. He says, no one has given the Islamic Republic, and just for some context, remember where we are. We tried everything with Iran, okay? We've obviously done sanctions. We try to hit their coastline militarily. We try to bomb the shit out of Qeshm Island and Bandar Abbas and Bandar Kamir, which is west of Qeshm Island and west of Bandar Abbas. Didn't work. We tried to block the blockade. Hasn't worked. Iran has the Caspian Sea as well. They've been circumventing a lot of that the same way the Saudis are circumventing the issue of the Strait of Hormuz with the Red Sea, as we've spoken about before. And so, for simple terms, really the easiest translation is Trump has tried everything. Literally everything. And so this is a last-ditch effort to try and get Iran to capitulate, and it is laughable. It is laughable at best. So we'll read this here. It says, no one has given the Islamic Republic of Iran greater opportunity to make a deal than me. Tragically for them, they have failed to take it. Therefore, today, I am announcing the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. This will be economic warfare in isolation on an unprecedented scale. Their navy is gone. Their air force is destroyed. By the way, those were never concerns of Iran to begin with. Their military factories are now rubble. That's not true. They've built up most of their entryways. They have access to their missile stockpiles and drone stockpiles per U.S. intelligence. Their currency is worthless. They've learned how to deal with this for years, and they're working with Russia and China anyways. And their country is hanging by a thread. Not really. If they were, wouldn't they have come to the table months ago? They're still defiant. And matter of fact, does it sound like the country is hanging by a thread when they excluded the U.S. from negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz and is only talking to Oman, which is what they said a few weeks ago? They're not talking to the U.S., and they said they're going to control the Strait until Trump is no longer president? Does that sound like a country hanging by a thread, a country that says we're going to defy the U.S. for another 2 years? I don't think so. Today, I am also announcing that any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences. Oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies, it all needs to stop now. You know who you are. This will be an economic D-Day, and we will need all of our allies to stand with the United States of America to isolate and defeat the Iran threat. These maniacs are on the ropes, and these historic measures will cripple them in their ability to project terror worldwide. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And so again, this is the last-ditch effort, which is not going to work for obvious reasons that I've stated in the beginning of the stream, but nonetheless, we'll read this article and I'll go over my thoughts again. President Trump has threatened tremendous economic consequences on any nation that does business with Iran. Without offering details, the threat appeared to be his latest effort to isolate the country from the global economy and pressure its leadership into negotiating an end to the war. The U.S. has already imposed debilitating sanctions on Iran's economy and its leadership, and the Trump administration has previously sanctioned certain foreign businesses and organizations that trade with Tehran. Mr. Trump's vaguely worded social media post on Wednesday seemed to suggest that he could target nations that buy Iranian oil, without naming any. The president has, on occasion, backed down from such threats. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi of Iran dismissed his latest warning, calling it a diversion from America's own crisis. If Mr. Trump follows through, these are some of the countries that could be most affected. China. China is Iran's largest trading partner and the primary consumer of its oil, according to recent analysis by the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, a group funded by Congress to examine America's bilateral ties to China. For years, China has been practically alone in its willingness to defy Western sanctions on Iranian oil, buying up to as much 90% of Tehran's oil exports. In recent months, however, Iran's ability to ship oil by sea has all been cut by U.S. naval blockade, or by a U.S. naval blockade. Last year, China estimated its bilateral trade with Iran to be worth nearly $10 billion, a figure that doesn't include oil, but from Chinese perspective, that is a drop in the ocean compared to the size of its overall economy, said William Figueroa, an expert in Chinese-Iranian relations at the University of Groningen in Netherlands. It wouldn't be catastrophic for China if it was to have its trade or its ability to import Iranian oil impacted, he said. And this is what I told you guys before. The biggest advantage Beijing draws from the trade relationship is geopolitical, said Andrea Gaselli, a political scientist who specializes in China at the University of Exeter in England. Beijing has some interest in preserving the Iranian regime as a thorn in the side of the United States, he said. Dr. Gazelli described the share of oil that China imports from Iran as marginal and said that it can easily be swapped out for other sources on the global market. In response to a question on Thursday about the possible effects of coercive U.S. economic measures, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian called for all parties to reserve their differences through diplomatic channels. Sanctions and pressure will not help solve the problem, he said. And that's pretty obvious. India. Iran was once India's most important energy supplier, but U.S. sanctions have pushed New Delhi to reduce ties. Who gives a shit about India? UAE, Iraq, Turkey, and Pakistan. So this is what I really want to go over. These four Iranian trading partners also appear vulnerable to Mr. Trump's threat, said Esfandiar Batamangeldij. God, I hope I got that right. Chief executive of the Bourse and Bazaar Foundation, a London-based think tank focused on Iran's economy. On Wednesday, the UAE appeared to preempt the president's comments by announcing a halt to all trade and financial transactions with Iran. According to data from the World Trade Organization, Iranian Emirati trade was worth roughly $28 billion in 2024. The Emirati decision could affect the ability of Iranian importers to pay for goods. A lot of those financial services are provided through the UAE, we're going to call him Batman, said. Pakistan and Turkey have been so far relatively shielded from the United States' economic measures against Tehran. even as they have continued significant overland trade with Iran, Mr. Backman said. In 2022, the latest year for which World Trade Organization was available, Iran imported more than $11 billion worth of goods from Turkey, its third largest source of imports that year. Source. For both Pakistan and Turkey, it is politically and geopolitically very important that both of these countries maintain a good relationship with Iran, Mr. Batman said. And I think we got to call him that. I'm sorry, because I'm not reading that name out again. And I think this is where the Trump admin is really going to struggle. Borsu Osalik, a researcher at the Royal United States Services Institute research group in London, said Iraq was also vulnerable to U.S. economic pressure because of its continued trade with Iran. I told you guys this earlier. American sanctions have already targeted Iranian-linked groups in Iraq. But Dr. Osalik said that the broader sanctions on Iran's trading partners would be far more complicated to impose, and that implementing them will be slow, uneven, and difficult to monitor. It was far from clear, she added, the greater pressure would produce the political behavior Trump is seeking. So there's that. And look, I really just can't believe certain people aren't understanding how much of a mistake this is. And we'll go over that in a second as to what I'm alluding to. But it says here, Iran is considering a distributed military strike on all U.S. economic interests in the region as a direct response to Trump's announced economic D-Day against Iran, per a source close to Iran's Galibov. We take that with a grain of salt. Again, we don't know how true that really may be, but there has been some idea floating out of Iranian media, never from a first-hand account from any of these Iranian delegates like Mohammad Galibov or Abbas Araghchi, that Iran may actually attack the United States because they sense some sort of offensive coming their way as well. Look, what are the implications of Trump's economic D-Day? Really nothing that's beneficial for the U.S. because the only thing that benefits the United States is that Iran ultimately capitulates. If Iran doesn't ultimately capitulate, then we've earned nothing. We make them economically bleed a little bit. We make them suffer a little bit. The people in the country have already been subject to a rally around the flag effect, which means they have gotten behind the government in the greater good of defying not only the United States, but their greatest adversary, Israel, which has locked hand with the United States in their joint strikes throughout the entirety of March, 15,000 plus times. And so Iran can really deal with these sanctions. They've dealt with the sanctions for years. They've fortified their government to deal with sanctions. China, Russia, and Iran have probably built circumventing measures in order to deal with U.S. sanctions, and who knows where BRICS stands in all of that. And as well as the fact that they control the Strait of Hormuz, and the United States is not stopping their control of the Strait of Hormuz. So if the United States says, hey, Emiratis, you can't trade with Iran, and hey, Iraq, you can't trade with Iran, and hey, Pakistan, or hey, Turkey, you can't trade with Iran, Iran is just going to ramp up its control of the Strait of Hormuz. And the United States is not releasing the naval blockade as well. And so if this is going to turn into an economic battle, we tried this already. Don't you guys understand? We've tried this. In the first phase of the war, after everything was over, the ceasefire was contingent upon several factors like hands off of Lebanon and U.S. bases potentially being removed from the periphery. But the biggest incentive Iran had that even brought them to the table was us giving them money. And so if we are doing the exact opposite, exactly how is it possible or feasible that Iran will then come to the table after that if we cut off all of their trading partners? And again, they have the Caspian Sea, which is bordered by, I believe, 5 countries. That's Iran, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, and then Russia. And they've largely been using that large body of water, the largest lake in the world, I believe, to kind of circumvent the issue of the naval blockade and do some export and import of their own, especially with Russia, which is largely a trading partner to Iran, let's be honest about it, despite what we see in the media. So, with all of this considered, it really doesn't make any sense that this would make Iran capitulate. And also, simultaneously, Iran still can bomb any of these Gulf countries for opposing them economically as well. They're bold enough to do that. Iran are the ones now initiating the aggression and reigniting the conflict. Remember 2 weeks ago when Benjamin Netanyahu was here in the United States talking to Donald Trump, it was Iran that bombed Jordan first, despite us not attacking them at that moment. And so they have become emboldened. And this is similar to what you see with Ukraine. Ukraine is now being far more aggressive with Moscow and hitting critical oil infrastructure that is causing a gas shortage in the country with their advanced weapons and drone systems. And this is an emboldened Ukraine in comparison to what we saw in 2022. And so we can see the evolution of these countries that fight these greater powers. becoming bolder and braver and far more capable than ever before because of advanced warfare like drones and others. And on top of that, Iran has made that progression. They've evolutionized that way, except it's taken them 6 months, not 4 or 5 years. And so that really leaves us with no options. And again, they can still tow these ships in the Strait of Hormuz. They have the Caspian Sea. They have these other countries they do trade with. And is this even going to scare other countries into not doing trade with Iran? One must ask. I mean, the United States just got its ass whooped against Iran, got nothing out of it, and we're economically bleeding and dipping into a low level. We're dipping into strategic petroleum reserves like never before, to the point where they may potentially run out. It's obvious the United States is against the ropes. The global community, of course, notices this. And so are they going to be the ones to see Trump's deranged posts on social media saying it's going to be an economic D-Day and now lose out on tens of billions of dollars as a result? The UAE was the first to publicly claim they are done and they put an embargo on Iran, but we know the UAE would cuck right away because they're controlled by Israel anyways. And so anything that benefits the US and Israel is something the UAE will capitulate to immediately. But as for other countries like a Turkey or like a India, or sorry, not India, like a Turkey, or India is not really a factor here, but a Turkey or an Iraq, you know, the question stands, and the question is actually a lot more plausible. Are they going to stop? You know, the answer to that being more plausible, rather, what I mean, I don't think they will. And even if they do, again, Iran has the measures to deal with this. We have seen this for months and months. And matter of fact, we've seen this for years and years. And so this just comes from an angle of cope. This is maybe a way for the United States to save face and pull out of the war while making it seem like we hurt Iran in some way. Oh, we made them capitulate, and our economic blockade, our economic D-Day is what ultimately caused the peace plan. When in truth, in actuality, what causes the peace plan is the United States finally folding and saying, all right, fine, we'll give you the seized assets, we'll give you the frozen assets, we'll give you the $300 billion, we'll give you the Strait, we'll move our military bases, and we will promise never to attack you again. Just open up the damn Strait of Hormuz. That is what the United States is ultimately going to have to concede to. The only other option, as we've now displayed, and we've explained in great detail why this economic D-Day is not going to work, it doesn't take an expert to realize that. Where does that leave us? Where's the only other option? If we were to exercise an option that kept us in the war, it's going to be military action again. But again, the U.S. has diminishing munitions in the region, and we can't build up our weapons as fast as Iran can. Why? A lot of our weapons must be defensive, because we have to defend countries that are not involved in this war. Do you get it? We got to defend the UAE. We got to defend Kuwait. We got to defend Bahrain. In some cases, who knows, we may have to defend Oman. They hit Oman at one point in this war. Could you believe it? And eventually may have to defend even Israeli airspace. And so the United States is just fighting a far more difficult situation than Iran is. All Iran has to do is send some drones 40 miles over the coast, and they've already got these countries begging at their knees. The United States does not have that same kind of leverage strategically over Iran or militarily at this point. And we displayed that with our back and forth last month, in which it got us nowhere. So that's why I'm concerned that if Trump does enter the war again, he's going to enter the war with some military firepower like we've never seen before. We've tried everything. We tried the 15,000 bombs in the first bombing campaign that killed the supreme leader. Didn't work. We tried the 14-day back and forth where we acutely focused our pressure on their coastline to admonish their ability to really be able to control the Strait of Hormuz with their military logistical infrastructure in Bandar Abbas, Bandar Kamir. Didn't work. And so what would the only other option be? What would necessarily follow from that? Something like a nuclear option, something similar to nuclear devastation. And that is a grave concern of mine that moves forward as we continue in this war for the 6th month now. I think we're hitting the 6th month next week, if I'm not mistaken. It's been about 170, 180 days. Who's still counting? I don't know. So it's just not going to work. It is not going to work, and Iran has responded to this, and they've said, and by the way, I get it, Iran is always going to say this isn't going to work, but what Iran has been saying has held up with the truth over the duration of this war, over the course of this conflict. What Trump has been saying has not held up with the truth. Trump said 60 times, we're going to have peace. Is there peace? Trump has said we won the war in Iran. Did we win? I mean, you all are paying war tax at the grocery store, at the gas pump. Tell me, did we win? We're dipping into lows for our strategic petroleum reserve. Did we win? Trump is saying that we control the Strait of Hormuz. No, we don't. 10 to 12 vessels are passing through a day to the pre-war conditions of like 140. So where are we winning exactly? Where's all the winning? I'm yet to see it. But whatever Iran says is usually what lines up with the truth. Unfortunately, they happen to be the ones that are telling the truth. They say, hey, we're not opening up the Strait. The Strait doesn't open. Iran says, fine, we'll open up the Strait. Then the Strait actually opens. You get it? What they say actually happens. What they say goes. So, and now it says, breaking, Iran directly responds to Trump's newly announced economic D-Day, saying it is merely an attempt to distract the American public from internal domestic financial crises, specifically citing unprecedented U.S. national debt, skyrocketing interest rates, and the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, per Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. Araghchi adds, U.S. economic terrorism threatens the global economy and national sovereignty of countries worldwide. And China has directly rejected Trump's economic D-Day threat against Iran, warning Washington that sanctions and maximum pressure have never worked and never will. Beijing said that the Iran issue must be resolved through diplomacy, not through economic warfare. This is not new. China has previously rejected U.S. sanctions on Iranian oil, with its Commerce Ministry stating that the U.S. measures shall not be recognized, implemented, or complied with. Beijing has also developed legal and financial mechanisms, including blocking statutes and alternative payment systems, to reduce exposure to U.S. sanctions. Washington is still trying to isolate Tehran. Beijing is refusing to play along. All right, so here's Tim Pool. He speaks about something similar to this. He says that everything Trump is doing points to one thing: America becoming the largest distributor of oil and energy. Iran, Strait of Hormuz, Gulf of America, Venezuela, Cuba. These don't even have to do with one another. These are all chess pieces. So we'll watch this. This kind of caught my eye the other day, and I said, yeah, we got to go over this on stream. We were going to go over it yesterday, but we didn't have a chance. So we will cover it now. Before we do that, let me see if I have any chats, because I did see some coming through. Let's see. Jesco Scale says, Bruno L Dog and L Owner, Stilo and Stella Mago D. Very true. Thank you for the 5, bro. S Diag says, who would win a foot race, you or Myron? I would smoke Myron. I would absolutely destroy him in a sprint. Are you guys kidding? Are you guys dead ass? I'm offended at that question. Who would win in a foot race? All right, guys, I'm younger and I'm blacker. Let's get dead ass here. I would smoke him. Okay. Silly question. I'm pretty fast. I'm not that fast, but I'm pretty fast. I'm not bad. Yeah, I would destroy him. Distance, I don't know. I don't know if he runs anymore. Last time I ran was like last summer. I don't run that much anymore, and I did a 5K in like 20 minutes. I think I had like a 7-minute and 20-second pace. I've done like a 6:50 pace before, 6-minute and 50-second pace before for a 5K. So I'm in decent shape, but yeah, no, Myron's getting destroyed, bro. Are you kidding me? Thanks for the 5, though. Chesco Scales 5 says, no lie, Ryad, you're actually the best to be doing it in this space. No more entertaining and more precise when going over the news. No one is more entertaining and more precise when going over the news. W. Ryad, thank you so much, bro. I appreciate that. Love you. That means a lot. Thank you for the 5, my friend. Thank you for the 5. You really think so? You really think so? Nah, I'm being funny. Thanks. Albo A says, who would you rather have babysit your kid? Jeff or Clancy? You have to choose one. Jeff who? Jeffrey Epstein? Okay. What kind of sick question is that? Albo, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Epstein, maybe? I don't know. That's a question from hell, bro. Way to put me in a corner. I have no idea who I would choose. That's funny, though. Good one. Chesco Scales 5 says, 120K salary working a 9 to 5 or 60K running your own business? This is a good question. Well, look, You know where I stand. I think time is priceless. I think having your own time is priceless. If you have 100, so it's the salary is double, but you've got to work as opposed to having a business at 60K, right? Look, if you have a business that makes you 60K a year, obviously you're running around running your business. It depends on what the business model is, how hands off or hands on it is. But there's no such thing as really passive income. So you've got to take care of that business and grow it. If a business is not growing, it's failing. A stagnant business is a failing one. However, I'd have to say if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably do the business because I can realistically see myself scaling. You know, I know that may be a crazy answer. 120K is a lot more money. It's double. But the problem is you don't have the time. The problem is of the time. Having your time truly is the biggest advantage in this game. If you work a 9 to 5, you can certainly escape the 9 to 5 cycle by working your ass off, but you've got to work like twice as hard as somebody who doesn't work to scale a business or figure out a side income, circumvent that measure, and find extra outlets of income. It's way harder. Think about it. The average American gets up at 7 or 8 a.m., gets to work at 9, gets out of work at 5 sharp, gets home at 6, maybe an hour commute, even 5:30, and then you've got to run your errands, do your chores, hit the gym. By that point, it's already nighttime and it's time to get to bed for work tomorrow or you won't have sleep. And so you've got to sacrifice sleep when you have a 9 to 5 if you want to escape that cycle. And it almost sounds better to not deal with that and answer to somebody for 8 hours of your day, have really 10 hours of your day effectively taken away from you. If you have a full 12 or even 10 hours to yourself to really scale your business and put that time in. So I'd have to choose the business because I can see the progression a lot more clearly than I would be able to as somebody who has all of my time occupied. And this comes from somebody who has a job. This comes from somebody who has a job. Yeah, are you going to have to live a lot more of a frugal lifestyle? Of course, but it's for the greater good of being able to have your time and with that time earn more money. And anybody in here who works a full-time job can agree to that. I mean, can you not all relate to the fact that your job takes a majority of your time, and when it comes to the point where it is actually time for you to work on that side hustle or that extra source of income, your energy is spent, your soul is sucked from you, you really don't even have the motivation or really the ability, the wherewithal to even get started, you know? So, and here's the thing, if you have a business, you can scale it. The problem with a job, you don't even have enough time to understand what it is that you want to do. And when you figure that out, you don't have the time to do what you want to do. At least with a business, you have the time and you know what it is that you want to do. You have the business. You just have to scale it. Simply. So you have so much more direction and ability. Realistically, if you make 60K, you can double that over in a year or a year and a half of hard work. Maybe even 6 months of putting your head down and really working hard. With the utilization of AI, with everything that is out today, you can double your income for your business quite quickly. I don't know if you can say the same for a job. It takes years in one position of being perfect as an employee before you can get a raise, before you can step up in the company, work up in the ranks. And you have to focus on that while focusing on a business on the side. It's tough. So I'd have to choose the business. I would have to choose the business, to be honest. But, yeah, see, chat is relating. So much time is taken away from you when you work a full-time job. 120K at 9 to 5 because owning your own business will never be 9 to 5. And for 60K, not. Yeah, 60K is not a lot, but look, I'd rather do the business. And I just have the confidence in myself to double that 60K. I think I'm competent enough. You know, if you're not an idiot, you could probably make more of that income. You can make more of that income. So I'd have to say the business, man. Your time is priceless. You will never recognize that until it's taken from you every day, 8 hours, 10 hours. What time do you have to do something else? You're stuck. It is the cycle. You are stuck in it. And the only way to get out of it is to really chip away at your sleep. Let's get real. Let's get real. So it's hard. Not easy at all. You know? But, and increasingly today, how many people have online businesses? I mean, when we think of business, I'm not thinking of like owning a restaurant. Yeah, you're cooked if you own a restaurant. Like you're not going to have any time at all. We all know that what that looks like. The food industry is brutal, but, and even then there's a chance for you to grow your income. But, you know, people own businesses that are completely online and hands off. People subcontract work. People are the middleman. And they utilize AI to do it for them. So a lot of these businesses, I know people are not going to believe it, but a lot of these business owners today, I have friends who do this. They spend 2 or 3 hours in front of the computer and they're done for the day. Everything else works for them. So, you know, increasingly, it seems like being a business owner is probably the better move. But I don't know. Maybe you agree to disagree. All right, so Tim Pool here goes into everything that Trump is doing. And he says that it's all to be the global oil hegemon, the energy hegemon of the world. And I've heard this article. I've heard this argument. I cannot talk today. I've heard this argument numerous times, and it's comical. So we'll listen to this. And a lot of you guys won't even need to hear me respond to this. You'll know why it's bullshit. But we really got to be honest with ourselves.
This is failure. Sorry, it just is. This prolonged war, I understand China is being strangled out. And this is why Trump's never going to tell you the truth. And this is why, look, I'm going to go and say stupid people who don't pay attention and don't read have little idea what's actually going on. And they're going to say something dumb like Israel did it. Israel's got their interests. That we've already been over. The U.S. is...
So right away, big mistake off the bat. Israel's got their interests. Okay, that's saying the least. That's omission. You know, and I know full well, this war is entirely for Israel. Why? Because this doesn't benefit the United States whatsoever from a strategic perspective, from a military perspective, from a security perspective. We started this war on the pretense of security. We said Iran has a nuclear weapon. That's a security concern. One that is not real because Iran never had a nuclear weapon. And if they did, they don't have ICBMs to make it over to the U.S., nor would they ever try that because it would guarantee their eradication as a nation. So we started this war on false pretense. Why? Because we want to change the regime for Israel. For Israel.
Doing this, if you look at everything Trump has done, I've gone over this a million times, to destabilize global oil production and center new oil distribution through the United States. It's why he renamed it the Gulf of America. You may be saying, like, what a stupid thing to do. Why call it? Because when that is where all the oil of the world is flowing from, he doesn't want people to say the Gulf of Mexico. No, the United States will be the largest distributor. I believe it at this point, it may be. This is why he pacified the Caribbean, blowing up these cartel ships. This is why they surrounded Cuba. No resistance. It's why they moved on Venezuela. It's why Trump wanted the Panama Canal. You can see the chess pieces on the board. It's why he wants Greenland.
And he's not going to take it. And by the way, the oil in Venezuela is heavy and does he even know this? The oil in Venezuela takes so much money to refine and export anyways. And a lot of analysts argue that the oil in Venezuela is not even that useful. It doesn't have that much utility. Yeah, it gives the U.S. a little bit of a cushion, sure, but it's a distressed asset. It's not a foundational point of leverage for the United States. It's not light oil that can be exported and refined easily like they have in the Gulf, and so it doesn't have the same utility. That's a big point as well. Also, we're in the Western Hemisphere. Exactly what do we need to take leverage over that we didn't have leverage over already? We run this hemisphere for the most part in Latin America. Yeah, taking Venezuela could be positive economically in some respect, but it has nothing to do with these are completely separate issues. And he's trying to connect the Venezuelan regime change and our capture of their oil with Iran because we're undermining China, which buys oil from Iran, or because Iran and China have a strategic relationship. And don't worry, I'm going to let it play, but this is a fundamental misunderstanding because I think 1% to 2% of oil coming out of Venezuela actually ever went to China historically anyways. China barely gets any of their oil from Venezuela. And any gap in the Venezuelan export of oil can be patched up by Iran or any other Gulf nation that has close diplomatic ties with China. That's an easy measure for them to circumvent. Also, China anticipated the war with the United States and Iran in the beginning of 2026. No one knows this, but Russia supplied China 300,000 extra barrels of energy because they anticipated the energy crisis that we're in now because of the war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. What's more, China had a 16% surplus in their oil production and their oil imports from other countries in fear of the fact that the global oil and the global energy market would be cut off as a result of this war. So they've been preparing from the beginning of this year to deal with the energy shortage. But somehow taking Venezuelans' heavy and sour oil that takes a lot of money to refine, a lot of infrastructure to actually make it useful, that's going to hurt China across the entire world, right? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't work.
He wants control of the northwest and potentially northeast passages. Now you look at the Strait of Hormuz, and he's strangling out China. The point being this: Trump ain't going to come out and say, we are driving gas prices and destroying everything because we want to damage the economy of the BRICS nations and wipe them off the map economically.
The problem with this is the BRICS nations are not suffering from the Iranian regime like the U.S. allied nations are. That's the whole point of Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think for a second Iran is going to block the Strait of Hormuz and alienate their relationship from China and from Russia by blocking their vessels as well? No. They're going to trade with Russia and continue to do so through the Caspian Sea just north of Iran, which the U.S. effectively has no access to. And they're also going to continue to trade with Iran in any way possible despite U.S. sanctions. Same thing with China. Same thing with China. And at one point in this war, the United States had to relieve the sanctions imposed on Russia to kind of give some freeway to the global market as a whole because of how tight things were getting from an energy crisis perspective. So how are we hurting Russia and China? How are we hurting China? Iran is letting Chinese vessels pass through the strait for the most part. It's the U.S. allied countries that can't get their exports through. It's Kuwait that in May had to wait 30 or 40 days before they ever saw oil pass into the Indian Ocean. It's not China. China's not suffering. China also prepared for this war with the 16% surplus in imports, as well as the fact that they have 40 million barrels in reserves. Does he know this? Unbelievable to say, look, the energy angle is there for this administration. This administration obviously is aiming to undermine BRICS, no doubt about it. But you don't undermine China by starting a fucking war with Iran. What China hawk was in favor of that idea? Tucker Carlson and the rest. There are so many people that are always talking about how grave of a threat China is to the United States economically and strategically. And by the way, they are. None of them support this war. So if this war is beneficial to undermine China, why aren't they happy about it? These are people inside and outside of the administration, by the way. No one's saying this. This is like a desperate walking tightrope, seeking approval talking point. Like, does he think Trump is going to see this? Undermine China. We are begging to talk to Iran and they're saying they don't want to talk to us. We're undermining China by bombing the Iranian coastline and putting our Gulf allies in harm's way so that we can gain some advantage with the petrodollar over BRICS? Does that make any sense at all? Starting a war with Iran for China or to undermine China, that is a retarded notion. No one with any political literacy, geopolitical literacy, would ever make such an assertion. Ever. You can make an argument that this actually strengthens BRICS. You can make the argument that this is benefiting China. This is benefiting Russia, especially long term. And it also deepens the ties of these BRICS nations against the United States. And it alienates the United States from the Middle East. It alienates our hegemony in the Middle East. We're moving our military bases on the Gulf countries, which are the most influential, inward. Why? Because Iran says they can't be in the periphery. This is going to support the petrodollar in what way? Iran is going to control the Strait of Hormuz. This is going to control the petrodollar in what way? Trading in U.S. currency may eventually become very unattractive for the global community and our NATO partners as well. So how long are they going to play nice with us? How long are they going to play nice? The entire world was against this war. The entire world. China was against it, but China's not suffering and panicking like we are. They're not desperately seeking a peace deal like we are. Last time I checked, it's Trump writing for days in paragraphs on Truth Social saying we need to take back the Strait of Hormuz and Iran is a terrorist regime. It's not China saying that. China's saying, look, this is dumb. We don't support it. And China, by the way, is not even locking hands with the U.S. to support their economic D-Day. If China so desperately wants the shackles released off Iran, Why don't they join the US in some coalition to actually get Iran to open up the Strait? They don't talk to us when it comes to Iran. They talk to Iran. And they have deep ties going back 25 years. It's like it's unbelievable.
I'm not going to say that. I mean, China would be between a rock and a hard place at that point, where they have to tell their people, yeah, we're losing this. Now, the reality is China is losing this. And the question is, how long until...
With what evidence has he supplied economically that China is losing this? Again, from an energy perspective, China's fine. So how are they losing? How are they losing? By the way, you can even argue Iran is fine. China's suffering? The only people that are suffering are the Gulf countries. The only people that are suffering is India and some countries in Europe. Asia as a whole in some way is suffering from the lack of imports coming from the Gulf, the oil that's supposed to be exported out of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait to these Asian countries, but China's not one of them. China runs on coal. China doesn't even run on oil. And none of that oil ever came from Venezuela, a marginal amount, a minuscule amount. That means nothing in the face of this war. That means nothing in the face of China's massive economy. So China's threat to the United States is they have human capital. They have production. They have way more people than we do. They create way more than we do. That's the problem of China. This war has nothing to do with that. This is why Trump proposed tariffs on China and the rest of the world. Because they undercut us in every single way with their human capital. The only way to circumvent that, the only way to answer it is by tariffing them. Is by taxes on imports, not by a war in Iran, a war in the Middle East. That does little to nothing to China and everything to us. It makes me think, is he getting paid by them? I don't know why he would say something so asinine. In the face of the facts, this is a hilariously bad argument. Someone put Goku. It put copium. Yeah, it's killing the dollar as the world reserve currency. This is delusional Q crap. Yeah. It's killing the dollar. This is favoring BRICS. What is Tim Pool smoking? And by the way, he argued with my brother about this, and he sounded nuts. He lost badly. My brother was on Tim Pool maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago at this point, and they argued whether the Iran war is actually benefiting the United States in any way. And my brother, of course, said, no, it's not. And I think he brought out this stupid-ass China angle that time. And it's like, bro has no clue. China's been preparing for this for probably years, actually. But from what we have documented from the beginning of 2026, that 16% surplus to 40 million barrels in reserves, the 300K barrels supplied by Russia, they have what they need in order to stand through a global energy shortage, a crisis. And Iran will relieve pockets wherever they need to assure China stays afloat. Why? China supplies Iran military infrastructure like satellites and radars that may have aided in Iran striking Prince Sultan Air Base that had our AWACS systems that were already running low in the region. This was a few months ago. Prince Sultan Air Base belonging to the United States, southeast of Ryad, I believe about 2 hours in the eastern capital, in the eastern province of Iran. Of Saudi Arabia, sorry. So it's like, what exactly how? Venezuela is completely separated from this. The person who was hurt the most from Venezuelan regime change was Cuba. That's where they got all their oil. And then when Mexico was going to help Cuba out in their oil shortage and their energy shortage, we said, if you do that, we'll sanction you to hell. So it's pretty obvious from what we did after we got out Maduro, it was to undermine Cuba. Duh. That's one of the main reasons for the Venezuelan regime change, as well as others. People just open their mouths. I don't know, what do people not read? Do people not study the news? Do people not read books on economics? Or do people not understand this? You don't need to read a book on economics, not to sound corny, but it's really like a fundamental misunderstanding. Because even if Tim Pool was assigned, I'm not accusing him of this. Let's say he was assigned with defending Trump, he wouldn't do it from this angle if he knew what he was talking about. He would choose a different angle to attack this from. Do you get what I'm saying? And he's saying Trump is not saying it and the administration is not saying it for What? To keep it a secret? Guys, we bombed Iran and destroyed the world because we're hurting China. You see how dumb that sounds? That's why they're not saying it, because it's not true. So, unreal cope. Unreal cope. You know, and this is something a lot of the Trump shows are saying. Okay, this is crazy. But yeah, whatever. Whatever. Let's see. I had some chats come in. Didn't he get caught choosing or receiving Putin checks? I don't know. All right, let's see. I got some chats here. One chat. Shout out to you, my friend. Made $14K in the last 4 weeks doing online custom fitness training outside, in addition to my semi-trucking. Thanks to Myron, Brandon, Carter, plus God. God bless you, man, and I'm so happy that's the case. And that's what I'm saying. Business, man. The businesses, because what's $14K a month? That's well over 100 grand. So, good for you, my friend. Good for you. And guys, by the way, if you want to get into fitness, if you want to change your body, if you want to recomp, if you want to ascend, if you want to lean max, then get with One Chest. Or if you want to gain muscle, whatever it is, get with One Chest. He is the certified personal trainer of my community and my brother's community, both of us together. And he has changed the lives of many through his testimonials that I can confirm are remarkable. So, and his transformations that are remarkable. So, One Chest, go ahead and pop your link in the chat, and then I will pin it, unless you can pin it yourself. And guys, go ahead and get with him if you are struggling with your fitness journey. But yeah, Tim Pool, bro. I chimped out, but I had to. It was quite necessary. Let's see. What's something super tough you overcame recently? What is a good question? What's something super tough that I overcame recently? You know, I don't know. Nothing recently that's been super tough that's on the top of my mind. It's a good question. Nothing in specific. I would say the biggest challenge I face every day is the monotony of life, just how repetitive life is. Working a job, doing the same thing all the time. That's why this is an escape for me, because this is always different, and this is what I want to do. Not to sound cheesy, but yeah, probably just the monotony and vicious, repetitive nature of working a job. That's what's been tough, but nothing specifically. Thank God. Life is quite good. You know, for what it is, I try to look at everything optimistically. So things have been fine for me. Let's see. So what do we have here? Sagno Sprite says, looking lean. Look, man, we're getting lean. My mom's always saying, you're too skinny. I'm like, bro, I'm shredded. Look at this. Look at this vein. You kidding? Come on. And I'm flat. I had no carbs today. At all. Hold on. I gotta get the angles right. You know what I'm saying? Could really show the abs, but we're gonna be appropriate. I could show the shreds, but we're gonna be appropriate. You know, I'll be honest, my arms lost a little density since cutting, but that's the nature of it. They still got some size to them. You know, look at that vein. Bigger than Myron or what? I think I passed Myron, guys. What do you think? What do you guys think? You know? Yeah, we're in the gym every day. I didn't go to the gym today. I'm not going to lie. I finished work. I fell asleep. Okay? Happens. But you're getting a good stream as a result. Okay? I feel rested. So, I knocked out pretty bad, I must admit. But anyways, Sagno Sprite, thank you so much for the 2. Good to see you here. You've been here from the beginning, so I remember. Someone said Baghdad diet. No, not Baghdad diet. Oh, that's Ahmad? Show the shreds? Okay, if it's Ahmad asking, maybe I'll show. Should I? Chat. All right, you know what? I'll go on Insta. Look, these are my credentials, guys, all right? These are my credentials. Shout out to my boy Ahmad in the chat. Let me see. Look, man, we walk the talk out here. All right? This is me currently. Like 6'1"ish, 6'2", about 190, 185 pounds. You know? Here's the shreds. Ready? Ready for this? Shoulder vein going through. I mean, you see it. Get with one, chest. You see where we're coming, man. We don't bullshit over here, okay? We don't bullshit. No binging, no slobbery, okay? Every day, chicken, beef, rice, veggies, sleep, water, gym, bitches. Just kidding. Mama, I'm just kidding. More bitches. Let's see. This was 2 weeks ago. I'm flexing, you know? This was after my stomach bug. This is in the midst of the stomach bug. I'm such a real nigga. I was training during my stomach bug crisis. Look at this, veins blistering out of the shirt. And then here we go. We gotta get in the natural lighting. These niggas not touching me, man. Nah, I'm being funny, guys. Obviously, it's a joke. But yeah, get in good shape. It really, I have to say, ever since I got lean, it really did boost my confidence. I feel so much better about myself. And, you know, there's something to doing something that a lot of people can't do that is remarkable. There's something to being able to achieve a body that no one will ever see on themselves. No one will ever see that kind of physique on themselves. When you have that at a young age or even an old age, it's big. It really does change your psyche. People think it's just like for bragging rights, like I'm doing this on stream and that's why. Maybe a little bit. Just kidding. Really, when you get in shape, it really does forge your mind in a different way. And not in some like hierarchical dickhead way, unless that's how you want to be a narcissist, but it's really just in a way where you show yourself you can do what you'll tell yourself you'll do. Because how many times do we make promises to ourselves that we want to achieve a body or achieve a goal and we don't do it, and that dwindles our confidence subconsciously. So you have to be conscious and you have to really mean what you say and do what you mean and get after whatever your goals are. And so that when you achieve them, you have more instilled confidence. You know, you build that up over time incrementally. And when you get the physique you want and you build the business you want and you get the money you want and you get that position you want, nothing can stop you. You create this snowball effect in your life. You know, the wins really do start to pile up, but it's got to start with you. You know, so anything that you've been putting off, anything that you have not been adamant in doing, even though you wanted to do it, get after it. Because it's not even about doing it to do it, whether you like to or not. It's about that end result and what you will reap of that, which is endless momentum. Truly, I can say that getting in shape propelled me to have better habits in my life, propelled me to be better at work, even at streaming. I've improved in many ways that maybe many of you may or may not be able to see. So, you know, it's huge. Not to be Mr. Motivational, but hopefully that resonates with somebody or that carries some weight. But, yeah, get shredded, bro. It's 2026. If you're fat, like, you're just a weirdo. Honestly. No offense. If you're fat, I love you. But, like, dead ass, get in shape, bro. Like, people are pinning peptides in their ass and they're, like, losing 50 pounds in a week. You have no excuse. Okay? That's not an that's not an endorsement. These are research drugs. I don't do them. I'm not endorsing them. I'm just saying, get with the program. I tell this to people who say, AI is taking all the jobs. The AI taking the jobs we had. Okay, bro, what are you going to do? Use AI and get rich? You're going to be a broke loser. Broke fucking loser who cries about AI all day. Go use AI, code, figure out how to code, watch a video on YouTube, start a business, make $50K a month. People are literally doing that. I swear to God, I know some people who have done things like that. Get with it. Get with it. You know, don't complain about the circumstances. Take advantage. Be the person people complain about. He's too shredded. How did he get in shape like that? He's doing drugs. He has that business. How's he doing that? He's a trust fund baby. Be the person people complain about. You know, be a winner. Don't be a loser. You know, positive talk in here. Positive talk in here. Someone said pay your rent. Hey, I paid my rent. Let's see. Anyways, OSS Lightskin Groiper, can't wait to see your FNF debut with these 304s. W Myron, W Ryad, W Nick, Free the Tates 07. Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know, man. Could you imagine me on FNF? Could you guys imagine me on Fresh and Fit? Me at the end of the table? That would be pretty auraful. I mean, I would love to. At some point, we're going to make it happen. But it's going to be a cortisol release for me, man. Or a cortisol spike, rather, I should say. It's going to be tough. Those girls on Fresh and Fit are insufferable, bro. I mean, we're talking about Miami. We're picking girls from the Miami pool. That's, that's a Shark Tank. So you're getting the worst of the worst women there. That's not a good sample size to pick from. But regardless, nonetheless, it'll be fun. I don't know. I watched my brother, and he's been doing it for years. I watched my brother on Fresh and Fit. Excuse me. And I'm like, wow, like, I don't know if I could do that, I don't know if I could do that shit. I might crash out and like throw a chair at a girl. So, because here's the lore. All right, I'll give you guys some hidden lore since we're at the end of the stream just having some fun. This is true. I am far more, and I'm not like trying to sound cool, okay? I don't control my anger as well as my brother does. Believe it. Okay, believe it. When I'm like provoked or antagonized, or, I don't chimp out, like I don't attack people. Please don't misunderstand me. But like when I am, especially in a situation like Fresh and Fit podcast where I'm talking to these girls, I might lose it before him. Believe it. Take it for what it's worth. So I'm almost nervous for myself to get on that show. Because I would like say some things and do some things that I feel like are uncharacteristic of who I really am. I think I chimp out a little too much. So, because Myron really has patience. You guys should hear our phone conversations. I'll leave it there. He really is a patient person. And he is not in a bad way, a softer person. He really does have mercy. I'm brutal. I will walk by, and this is not good. And I'm not going to talk about my good deeds on here. I've done good things before, but I don't need to talk about them. Like, I'll be with friends, and I'll walk by a homeless guy, and like, this is just like an example. And I'm like, my friends will like be like, oh, let me see if I have something. Like, the fuck he's going to buy drugs. I'm just the person who's really real. Like, I don't always have that level of sympathy. Do you know what I mean? Like, my brother's very gracious, We'll be in public and somebody will approach him and talk to him. And by the way, if anybody ever recognizes me in public, it's happened a handful of times. I will drop everything, be so gracious, talk to them. But like if I'm in the middle of a workout, I'm gonna be like, all right, nigga, good to meet you, catch ya. Like my brother will really drop everything and give it to the fans. Like he really is a good person, not to glaze, And it seems like it's not genuine because it's coming from me, but it dead ass is true. I'm like, yo, bro, enough, you're talking too much. Like I'm just more honest and like really just sometimes a little meaner than him in certain ways. And it's hard to articulate, really. I'm struggling to articulate it. But my mom will say this, like my dad will say this. Even growing up, like my mom would yell at my brother. He doesn't even like, he'd just be like, all right. Not combative, very dismissive, very nonchalant, relaxed. My mom will yell at me. It's a fight. I would argue with her. I'd be combative, which is wrong. Honor your parents. Don't fucking argue with your parents. Don't be a dickhead. Your parents tell you something, even if you don't like it, shut your mouth. But admittingly, I was pretty combative as a kid. I was very argumentative, had to be right, had to be the smarter person, had to be the smart ass. And even to this day, like when I want to do something, like when I want to go get a new car and it's not smart for me to get a new car, my mom will be like, this isn't smart. You shouldn't do this for this litany of reasons. And she'll make a good argument and then I'll make a good argument back. And my dad won't say anything. And my mom will be like, yo, support me to my dad. And my dad is like, he's going to do it anyways. My dad was like, one time we were arguing about something. I'm not going to say what it was. My mom was like, yo, can you tell him to not do this? Can you support me? And my dad was like, the fuck I'm going to argue with him for? He's going to turn around and do it anyways. And I was like, so true, Baba. So true. Love you, Dad. So true. Thank you for not fighting me. So I am combative and argumentative in a way that my brother isn't. And you guys will see it on FNF. You guys will probably see it on FNF. That's some lore. You guys think Myron crashes out and shit and like Shadow Realms people? I'm telling you, man. I am worse. I'm worse. I'm not trying to be the bad guy. I'm telling you. Let's see. One chest says, oh, sorry. Connor says, you are very well versed on politics. Keep it up. I am pursuing firefighting right now and have my final 2 tests, grinding my own podcast. I'm Catholic. Hey, good for you, man. Good for you. And that is not easy. So shout out to you. And that's such a respectable career. So focus on those tests. Focus on the podcast, man. You're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. And you're Catholic? Shout out to the Catholics. One chest says consistency, competence, accomplishments, confidence. Yes. Yes. Very true. Very true, my friend. Go to the gym. 07. I ain't gonna lie. OSS light skin. I'm not doing it. Not going today, man. And here's the problem. I go to the gym like several times a week. I go way too much. I go to the gym probably like 6 out of the 7 days of the week. So anytime I can't make it, it's like just effectively a rest day for me, which is too much. I should probably go a little less, but I don't know. I love to be there. Well, I just love to be at the gym. I don't know if I love to be there. I love to lift is what I should say. Let's see. Sagno says you never do Ryad reacts. Yeah, I know. I gotta do it. Let's see. Wait, what? Is this real? Who sent this? This is on TikTok? Hang on. Chad, are you guys screwing me? Ryad sets his priorities straight with his mom. And so no one's getting married. No one's getting married. And look, I'm part of the problem.
Seeing Myron games, brother. I see exactly why he is.
What? What the fuck did she just say? Exactly how he is?
First
Okay.
of all, he the younger brother, and he is very fucking handsome. I know for a fact he got more bitches than Myron.
All right. No, I don't. What are we doing here?
Haram!
Stop.
Like,
That's just not true.
he not making real pill content.
All right, I'm having a hard time understanding her here. All right, anyways, that's funny. Let's see, what's in the Discord? Yeah, I shouldn't be doing this at the end. We'll do it later. This video's not even viral. I was hoping it was viral. Hey, the ladies liking me though. Can I say? What can I say? You know, it's not my fault. It's just you got to get shredded. Jacob says there's people who can't walk and yet they work out. Very true, man. There's no excuses. The biggest thing is the diet, though. The real red pill is you don't even need to work out to lose weight. You should, so you don't look like a flabby piece of shit, but you really don't. You just have to eat less. Someone said, nigga getting excited. All right, take it easy. We're just being funny. We're just having fun here. Let's see. Someone said Jihad Ryad. Very good. Okay. So guys, that's really it. Okay, One Chest put his fitness coach. Let's go. I found my wife. Very funny. Yeah, Juma tomorrow. Gotta lock in. Guys, love all of you. Had some fun tonight. A little bit of a laid back stream towards the end. The news is just trash, bro. I'm like waiting for something crazy to happen. And I think it will because Netanyahu's election is soon. Netanyahu's re-election is in October 26th. I think it's at the end of October. And historically, when things like this happen, Netanyahu's got to do something to earn the favorability of the Israeli people and make it look like Israel is fighting themselves out of a corner. So I anticipate, I'm not saying this in a good way for content, swear to God. I really do anticipate something bad may happen in the Middle East because we are approaching Israel's election. And increasingly, Netanyahu's getting a little bit more aggressive with his strike on the base in Idlib. They just killed 11 people in Lebanon last week. So, and like these things aren't being covered, but things could be ramping up. And then the economic sanctions against Iran, or really the economic D-Day, Trump is calling it, the embargo. We'll see where that pushes Iran. Maybe they'll respond militarily as a result as they become emboldened. Does Israel get involved in the face of all of this? You know, a lot of things to ask, a lot of questions. But yeah, I will start utilizing the Discord server more. So send stuff in here. Just don't send long-winded stuff. Try to send like short TikToks and shit. That way it doesn't take too much time on stream. But I'll start using it. I see some good stuff in here. So, yeah. But anyways, love all of you guys. Have a great rest of your night. Appreciate all of you. Hopefully you guys had a good day. And enjoy your weekend. Tomorrow's Friday. I may or may not be live tomorrow. Probably not because there's after hours. But I want to be live on Saturday. But we'll see. We play it by ear depending on the news and everything else. So, love all of you guys. I think I'm caught up on chats. Yes, I'm caught up on chats. And until next time, have a good night. God bless.